All right, welcome to episode number 64 of the Let's Discuss Gaming podcast. I am your host, Triple J. Joining me is my co-host, Dr. Games 101.
What's going on, guys? Hello. Happy New Year.
And we're going to kick off, and we're going to talk about the latest news in gaming that's happened basically since the beginning of the new year. Ready to start with the first topic?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. First story coming up. Starfield support page reconfirms it will release in the first half of this year. Starfield, the new and upcoming sci-fi RPG from Skyrim makers Bethesda Softworks, was originally due out in November of 2022, but it was delayed to the first half of 2023 last May. Starfield was then a big part of an Xbox showcase last summer, and during that showcase, Microsoft revealed that every game shown would be coming in the first half of 2023. Now, a new Bethesda support page for the game has reconfirmed this first half of 2023 window as spotted by Clobwell on Twitter. Starfield arrives exclusively on Xbox Series and PC in the first half of 2023, the support page reads. This isn't the biggest surprise. Xbox has discussed this release window for Starfield on 2 occasions before the support page, but it seems the company is really dedicated to getting it out in the coming months. While waiting for the official release date, read about why Bethesda Softworks' delay is key to new-gen success, and then check out this story about how your Starfield character will not have a voice. You can also read about how ambition scale might be worrisome after that, and then how Xbox Series first-party games will cost $70 starting this year. So, do you think Starfield will get released again, or do you think they're going to stick to the first half of 2023?
Well, they did show a build event from the E3 2022. Last time I checked.
Yep.
It looked good. Gameplay looks awesome. Mixture of science fiction and first-person shooter and exploration. I can't say much for certain. Obviously, it's a game mainly solely on the Xbox Series X and X, and I think it's also on PS5 right now. Just on Xbox.
No,
Series,
just Xbox and PC.
All right, then. So it's going to be interesting, for at least for Microsoft to pull this up properly, because obviously they're competition with Sony most of the time. Now, Sony comes out with some good first-party games like Knack, Nathan Drake, Uncharted, etc., etc. So it's like, I hope they'll fix it matter, whatever's going on with the behind the scenes, and they'll release it fully and able and ready for the audience at large, us gamers. So you never know, right?
Yes, I mean Starfield. I'm not a big fan of Skyrim because I rather my games have a more linear path of where to go, or at least be more clear on where you're supposed to go. That's why I'm not a big fan of really Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls series in general. Starfield, it's also probably going to be a sci-fi game taking place in space. So I mean, it's a game that's getting a lot of buzz, but personally speaking, it's not something that I'm looking forward to. Even if this is next-gen exclusive, that's not something that's going to disappoint me.
Okay.
Anything else to add, or ready to move on?
Yeah, I don't have much to say about the matter, because so far they only show like one trailer of it, though, right? So far?
Mm-hmm.
Not a couple of trailers.
I think one.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. Next. New teaser trailer says 2023 is the year of Payday 3. Developer Starbreeze Studios and publisher Koch Media have released a new teaser trailer that calls 2023 the year of Payday 3. Presumably, this means the co-op shooter is still on track to release sometime this year. Koch gave Payday 3 a 2023 release window back in March of 2021. Detailing the game's new publishing deal alongside news that there is at least 18 months of post-launch support planned for the title. Later that year in June, Koch released a new piece of concept art citing that Payday 3 will feature a fully fledged social heist universe set within a Hollywood-like setting. That was the last we saw of Payday 3 until yesterday, when IGN revealed the official reveal trailer for the game, although considering how little is shown in it, it's less of a reveal and more of a teaser. As you can see, there's not much to the trailer other than calling it 2023 the year Payday 3. He is hoping that holds true. For people who haven't seen the trailer, I gotta bring up the trailer. I thought I already had it ready to go. For people who haven't seen the trailer, we'll play it and then we'll discuss. I know when I gave you the link to the trailer, you were like, "That's it?"
Yeah, so lacking of thereof.
Yeah. So, just wait for my YouTube to load. I thought I had this page open. Apparently not.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're gonna let the trailer play, and then we'll talk more about Payday 3 once the advertisements be able to. All right. Here comes its trailer.
What's the advertisement? Excuse me. Here comes its trailer. What's the advertisement? Excuse me. Here comes its trailer.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, man. It reminds me of that trailer where they show the guy walking into the cabin. That's about it.
Yeah, or like the guy that was walking down the alley, and then we never heard about that game again. Whatever it was supposed to be.
Yeah, that's how memorable it was.
Okay, it did have a little part that I left out. What do you hope Payday 3 brings to the franchise? So, have you ever played any of the Payday games?
I played Payday 2 Crime Wave Edition for about 15 minutes, and after that I was like, yeah, it's not my game for me right this second. I mean, if I have friends, whatever, like you or any of my other Xbox fans I know for years, I'll team up with them because they're into that game too, Payday 2, most likely. Two of them, actually, that I know directly are playing that game constantly, so... to be honest with me, I don't know much about, with you guys out there, I don't know much about Payday. As far as a story or lore, I'm not sure if the characters are consistent each and every Payday. So something that the interesting for Payday 3 to look and see how well they're going to properly release this game, you know?
Right. Maybe they could make the AI more driven to complete missions if you're playing by yourself. Because when you play by yourself, the AI will like shoot at police and help you defend yourself. But like if you gotta get bags to like a truck that's waiting, that's all on the human player. That's the AI is not smart enough to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's something they could do for Payday 3. Again, I played Payday 2 once, but it's not really worth it if you're playing by yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm interested in Payday 3, but, again, one problem with Payday is it's a boring game if you're by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I have to say. Anything else to say, or...
No, I'm going on the Payday for now. I'll wait until it comes out and see how it is.
Okay. Next. System Shock Remake gets March 2023 release window. The long-in-development remake of System Shock will finally be released this March. This news comes by way of a new Kickstarter update from developer Night Dive Studios, which states the team has picked a few last things to share before our quickly approaching launch window of March 2023, as reported by Video Game Chronicle. This remake, which is set to hit PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and PC, has had a 2023 release year attached to it for a minute now. But this new Kickstarter update points attention to the game's Steam page, which now features a March 2023 release window. As some of you have already pointed out, this is not our first time announcing a tentative launch window, but over the past few years, much has changed. The scope and scale of the project has evolved dramatically, and with publisher Prime Matter joining the project, it's enabled us to focus on quality of life improvements, bug fixing, and localization support. The last major step towards releasing a game we're all incredibly proud of, the update reads. This has also given us time to go back and polish various aspects of the game that needed that extra shine. The update then goes into detail on the various changes, effects, and features that will be present in the remake, so if you're interested in a deeper dive, head there. Last time we saw System Shock was in a trailer released last June during the PC Gaming Show, but it's been on Game Informer's big list of upcoming video game remakes for a while now. News of this March 2023 release window is great, especially for fans who have kept up with the game's journey through development hell. Here's hoping this release window sticks. In the meantime, read about. So, are you excited for the System Shock remake? Have you played the original?
Originally, I heard the game when I was younger from a couple of friends. It sounds like one of those niche audience type of gaming experiences, because obviously it wasn't widely released or widely available or widely popular back in the late 1990s when it came out, especially with System Shock 2.
Right.
In my perspective, that is, because, I was playing the Crash Bandicoot, I was playing the Metal Gear Solid game, I was playing a little bit of Spyro the Dragon demo disc of the demo disc that I got from Game Store. So it's kind of like interesting to see they actually rebooted the series to make sure they can bring it about into the mainstream of gaming. So hopefully it'll be successful. I'm willing to buy the copy myself, if ever. Personally, myself, not sure about you personally, but me personally, whatever I have in my possession has increased a little bit. So I should buy a game at least once every 3 to 4 months of a major title. So if System Shock is one of them, that would be great, So
yeah, it's kind of like it's almost like you're facing. I've only seen gameplay of it. I've never played it myself.
Right.
But it's kind of like facing like almost like an artificial intelligence as the antagonist, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really know much about System Shock. I can't comment on it. But yeah, hopefully it does come out, and hopefully this gets as big of following as the original did. Because I know a lot of people did like the original, or at least were interested in the original when it first came out. So,
definitely.
So hopefully this remake not only brings the old fans back, but gets new ones, attracts new fans who never played the original later this year, in a couple months.
Definitely.
Anything else to say, or ready to move on?
I'm ready to move on.
Okay. Next. Xbox Games with Gold for January 2023 revealed. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and Xbox Live Gold subscribers will be able to claim 2 free games in January. Game Pass Ultimate and Xbox Live Gold subscribers can claim 2 free games for January 2023. Iris Fall and Autonauts. The 2 games differ slightly in their availability periods. The Iris Fall is available for the whole month of January, and Autonauts can be claimed from halfway through January to halfway through February. Iris Fall features puzzles that rely on a light and shadow system. Players follow a girl named Iris as she follows a black cat, leading to mysteries and more. The game features a unique monochrome art style and a gothic atmosphere. Autonauts is a crafting and building game. Players land on a planet and start building their colonies. There's a variety of activities, from fishing to farming. All this can be done with the help of worker bots who you can train. Autonauts has a low-poly art style. December 2022's Xbox games included Cult Canyon and Bladed Fury. Players still have till the 15th of January, which is tomorrow, to get, from when this is being recorded, to get Bladed Fury, a side-scrolling action game inspired by China's Warring States period. If you aren't already on Game Pass, you can get your first month for only $1. Unfortunately, that $1 is only for new members. So, do you care about either Iris Fall or Autonauts based on the description?
Well, the game Bladed Fury is still available for Game Pass with Gold. I think we'll play that sometime this week or just next week for recorded from my gaming channel. Personally, myself, it looks good on its presentation, creative bosses. It looks good. Now, as far as Iris Fall is concerned, if I pronounced the name correctly, it looks like a puzzle game and involves hand-eye coordination and timing of sorts. So it's like that, like something from like one of those typical artwork pieces you see with the stairs going up, down, diagonal, and upside down. You name it. So that kind of style of art. So that's gonna be interesting to play that game too. That's about it, really. To be honest with myself, I know I should say this last year though, because I wanted to get off of the gold membership sooner or later. Now this may sound like a bad marketing to say that publicly, like through the podcast here, but what for the last 3 or 4 months now we see that we have no 360 games, and that's usually like the one of the best things to have of
Yep.
gold was to have Xbox 360 games that are free at the moment, as long as I have the gold membership. And I really took that incentive out. So now I'm planning on trying to get rid of it, to finish up my gold membership by September, and then just go switch straight to PC and play like free to play games on the Xbox, and that's about it. Because like Apex, because I still have a record of it still. So in other words, it's like it's good to have gold for the time being, but eventually, if nothing's changed for the next few months, I will let my gold expire and just move on to the to PC, Steam, and stuff like that. So.
Oh, wait a minute. Do you have a gold membership, or do you have a Game Pass membership that includes gold?
I think an Ultimate Pass, pretty much. Yes, basically includes Game Pass and Xbox Live Gold. And
yeah, games with gold is just basically it's just like something that just won't die, and it needs to.
Oh yeah.
Because they really killed it.
Years.
They really killed it when they removed the 360 games. I can name a bunch of 360 games that I got through Games with Gold, but I really can't name the Xbox One games I was happy to get. I got to play Mafia 2. I got to play Split Second all the way through. I got to play, those were Dead Rising. I got again. All these games I got that were through Games with Gold were 360 games, as you said, and the Xbox One games just aren't doing it for me. And it seems like it's every month they're giving us 2 indie games, and they're just throwing shit at the wall, hope it sticks. And unfortunately, more times than not, it doesn't.
Definitely.
Ever since, I don't know who was the genius that thought removing the 360 games was going to be a great idea, especially when they could. I would have been fine even if they started offering, like I said, if they wanted to, even if they couldn't offer more 360 games, they went through the entire catalog of 360. Start offering the games that you're taking off Game Pass. You take off 18 games of Game Pass in a month. And, some are 360, some are Xbox One. You're telling me you can't find 2 that you could just offer, whether or not you've offered it already? Xbox One's been out since 2013, 2014. But most people, if they didn't have Xbox that first year or two, they missed out on those.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So I mean, I just have Xbox Live Gold, basically just because it's included with Game Pass Ultimate. It's not something I would get if you got Xbox just games with gold and you got the extra $5. Just upgrade to a Game Pass Ultimate subscription, because that's where I get most value. Is playing games on Game Pass.
Yeah, definitely.
These games, neither of them really interest me, so I have no intention of going out to make sure I get them.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready. And before we continue, though, I have technical difficulties on my end, guys, so don't mind me wherever I'm my eyes are not focused on the camera. So, but in the meantime, I can still hear you guys and still record and stuff like that. So I'll be fine for now.
Okay.
But, continue with but if I want to elaborate more on the games with gold.
Well, go ahead before we move on.
So Blade of Fury is kind of like an anticipated game for weeks, I see, and I should try to play it sooner or later. But it's just that the games with gold, it meant something back 7-8 years ago, back in 2014, 2015, when they had Halo Wars, Halo 3, Halo Reach, all this stuff was coming out as part of the games with gold, or it had some sort of discount stakes with the games. Now they can't do that anymore, or don't want to do that, and it's pathetic. If Agent Nelson, Phil Spencer of Xbox, support Xbox, services, are listening to this podcast somehow, some way, please try to go back to and resume the 360 titles. You don't have to give us the best, but try to expand upon the library so that people can come back to your Xbox games with gold, and that'll be well worth it to still have the gold. because I have 9 months left over, not even 8 months. So time is ticking, you know.
Well,
So,
I mean, they're not going to add any more 360 games because they said in order for a 360 game to be in a Games with Gold, it had to be backwards compatible with Xbox One.
okay then.
The other games that never made it just weren't able to be backwards compatible. Obviously, they weren't going to make WWE games because those, that they don't have the license anymore, or Xbox actually never had the license. There was always THQ and then 2K. But they don't. Other games that they could have brought to the service but never did were just not backwards compatible with the Xbox One.
Okay.
So that's why if there's certain 360 games where licensing was an issue, it's like, why didn't they bring this game ever to Games with Gold? That's the reason. I'm just saying.
Oh. Okay.
I hate to harp on it again, but I'll bring it up again. Final Fantasy 13 and Final Fantasy 13-2. You took those off Game Pass. They were on Game Pass, so they're backwards compatible. Why not offer those?
Yeah, the first Final Fantasy 13 game, Final Fantasy 13 as is, that was a good collector's to have the collector of the library. It's a shame that I don't have that. Yes, I have later returns. Yes, I have access to Final Fantasy 13-2, whatever it means. But the first 13 game was most important because I want to play that first.
Yeah,
understand that story first. So.
Yeah, so that's two games right there. Like I said, they got they had Dead Rising. I don't know why they can't bring the Dead Rising 2 and the Dead Rising 2 spin-off off the record. Maybe that's not backwards compatible. I don't know. I mean, the first Dead Rising was, so
maybe that's not.
Oh yeah.
Ready to move on?
Yeah, that's all I gotta say for that matter, guys.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right, one moment. All right, next. Xbox Game Pass announcements have been different. Here's what we know. January's Xbox Game Pass editions have been surprise announcements. Xbox Game Pass announcements have looked a little different recently. At the beginning of the month and mid-month, Xbox traditionally releases official announcements, stating what games are arriving and departing the service, but recent Game Pass editions have taken the form of sporadic surprise announcements. For January, Stranded Deep and Mortal Shell were added to Game Pass suddenly. Shadow Warrior 3 is also rumored but unconfirmed right now, due to a notification some players received. The message stated Shadow Warrior 3 is available to play now, suggesting the game will be available soon on Game Pass. According to the Xbox app, here's what we know about confirmed future Game Pass editions. In 5 days, Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden. In 6 days, Monster Hunter Rise. At the end of January will be a game preview of Inculanati. Then February 21st is Atomic Heart. Then on March 3rd, Wolong Final Dynasty. It's unknown if Game Pass editions won't have the usual blog post accompanying them. We could see the return of the announcement format in mid-January or in later months. Please bring them back. There are other confirmed games coming to Game Pass for the rest of 2023. Starfield, Redfall, and Forza Motorsport are scheduled to arrive on Game Pass when they release, along with Hollow Knight, Silksong. So, what do you think about these? Like I said, I didn't like this. But what do you think about the announcements that have been basically gone away?
We're referring to the Amazon games, right? For Prime members and
No,
stuff?
the Game Pass games.
Oh, the Game Pass games. I do apologize about that. To be honest with you, the Game Pass games are hit and miss. Because some they'll bring in some good games like Wolfenstein and such, and they'll take out Wolfenstein months later. So it's kind of like back and forth. Like, you want to keep on to Game Pass for as long as possible, but at this rate, people have their own libraries on Steam, Epic Games, and other PC related. Even Amazon games themselves have give you a library if you have Prime membership. So you get these free games to play with, and it's online most likely for some of these games. And what's the point of after all going back to the Xbox Game Pass after a while, and that too. It seems an incentive to buy Xbox Game Pass for many months on end, for how many years now. But for the last several months, it's kind of lacking because they keep taking more games out that we want to play, and wherever these new games are, we never heard of. And if they were released for the Xbox exclusive, to try to encourage people to play those games, kind of like taking a risk for that to keep on to Game Pass with the customers, to the customers that is. So to be honest with you, I can't say much about this right this second.
All right. This was basically just confirming what I've said, that Game Pass games have been added with no announcement. Just boom, all of a sudden, more games on Game Pass. And I just say, like I said, it kind of makes it more likely that I will not be playing that game, because how am I'm not going to go through 350 games unless it's a game I've heard of before it got added to Game Pass, or if there's like a challenge, like to earn more Microsoft points that can help me pay off my Game Pass subscription every month.
Oh, yeah.
So, we have a question. What's your Discord and W content? I'm W content. We don't have actually a Discord actual server. We just signed up for Discord so we can contact each other, because Facebook Messenger is completely unreliable.
It's not a mess of these past several months now, especially.
Yeah, I mean, we only use Discord when we're streaming this together. So, actually, if people want to friend me on Discord, my Discord name is Rapper JJJ. Rapper followed by 3 J's. One moment.
And guys, you still hear me as well. I personally also have a Discord as well, Dr. G, Doctor of Laugh Out Loud, or Doctor of LOL. I've been having that profile since, I would say, 2018. So it's been 5 years almost. Discord has been a blessing more than anything else, and personally myself, I see that a future Discord will continue to improve the matter of these services. So you never know, guys, right? So
Microsoft called FTC unconstitutional, regrets the error. Xbox parent company says it should have dropped language in lawsuit response, claiming the FTC violated the Constitution. Today, Microsoft filed a revised response to the United States Federal Trade Commission's lawsuit intended to stop the tech giant from buying up Call of Duty publisher Activision. The initial filing contained multiple arguments claiming the FTC itself and its court system were unconstitutional. But now Microsoft has yanked that language out of the dock and claimed it was all a mistake. Just your average oopsie of calling a large government agency unconstitutional. Well, basically, with what the FTC has done recently, like COPPA, you really can't blame them for the mistake. Mm-hmm. Last year, Microsoft announced its plans to consume Call of Duty and World of Warcraft publisher Activision Blizzard for a whopping $69 billion. Since then, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard have faced pushback and legal roadblocks around the world as various government agencies and regulatory committees investigate if the massive deal would give Microsoft an unfair advantage against its competitors. As you would expect, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard have fought back and spent 2022 filing responses, docs, and court paperwork in an effort to make the deal happen. Excuse me. In a press release put out by the FTC last month, the agency announced a lawsuit against a merger and reasoned that Microsoft would be able to stifle its competitors by making games Xbox exclusives and manipulating prices should the deal go through. Microsoft fought back via a response that contained a lot of arguments, including the assertion that the FTC itself was actually unconstitutional. However, as reported by Axios today, Microsoft refiled its response to the lawsuit and has omitted the section arguing that the FTC's lawsuit was invalid because the structure of the commission as an independent agency that wields significant executive power violates Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. In that same section of the original filing, Microsoft also argued that the lawsuit and legal proceedings being carried out by the FTC were invalid because the FTC's official complaint violated Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution. Oh, and Microsoft's legal team also claimed that the FTC's procedure violated the company's right to equal protection under the Fifth Amendment. Now, all of that is gone, and Microsoft tells Axios that it probably shouldn't have been in the initial dock in the first place. The FTC has an important mission to protect competition and consumers, and we quickly updated our response to omit language suggesting otherwise based on the Constitution. Microsoft Public Affairs spokesperson David Cuddy told Axios, "We initially put all potential arguments on the table eternally and should have dropped these defenses before we filed." Microsoft says it appreciates all the feedback it received about its arguments, claiming the FTC itself was unconstitutional, and are engaging directly with those who expressed concerns to make the company's position on the matter clear. In other words, the FTC probably didn't take too kindly to be called unconstitutional, and you probably shouldn't anger the people suing you and trying to stop your whole big merger from happening. Axios reports that Activision is also dropping similar allegations that include its own separate response to the same FTC lawsuit. Now, we're not legal scholars. I'm pretty sure Dr. Games 101 is not a legal scholar. I forgot to put the article up, but oh well. What do you think? What do you think about this, though? They said it was a mistake to call the FTC unconstitutional.
Well, to be honest with you guys, like I said, I'm no lawyer. I'm not a legal analyst of the books officially, whatever. But I did study some laws, especially the Constitution. I think that it's not unconstitutional, but it's also an ethics problem more than a constitutional problem. So obviously, Microsoft had a problem being a monopoly back in the 1990s into the 2000s. Last time we checked, and since like 2013, 2014, when the Xbox One came out. There was like some sort of rise, not a rise, but more like a shift within the game industry where the behemoths of the Nintendo, Sony, and now Microsoft for the last 15, 20 years has been the head honchos of the gaming at large, or they're making up the video games at large. And I don't mind Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard for almost $70 billion. But at the same time, why so much? Like, why couldn't it be like 10 billion or 20 billion, something like that most? Because obviously that's money to be wasted. And it seems fishy at first, but I'm sure if FTC looks into the matter, sort it out, and perhaps break up Microsoft one more time, or that have Xbox Division broken up, at least that, and then we'll take it from there. Maybe that will be a good solution to the matter at large, in my perspective, in my opinion. And as far as it being like unconstitutional specifically, I don't remember what part of the Constitution is like regarding about like copyright or about claiming of a property, intellectual property states that matter. That's usually under U.S. code, if I remember correctly. I don't know specific U.S. code, but I know it has to be like around that section of the United States law. The Constitution doesn't really specify too much about like a copyright or of intellectual properties, in my opinion, or my analysis or my overview of the Constitution, what I've been reading for God knows how many years on and off. So that's what I have to say, guys.
Yeah. Again, I really can't comment on this, but I do have to say in defense of Microsoft, the FTC does seem to be throwing its weight around, and this isn't the first time. The first time I realized the FTC was throwing its weight around is when they wanted to fine YouTube content creators for if people didn't label their videos as for kids or not for kids, and they agreed with what the person labeled it as because the guidelines were so vague. You're like, well, you can make a black and white silent video, claim it's for kids. According to these guidelines, and FTC saying we're going to go after the content creators. So it's when I hear like the FTC is throwing its weight around, it's like no kidding, this isn't the first time.
They did this kind of similar fashion with the FCC and the doctrine is called back in the 1980s, where they tried to regulate radio, a little bit of the TV aspect of the communications at large to the general public. So FTC is basically trying to be the next FCC of the 1980s and the doctrine that it was called back in the 80s. So nothing new, just different companies, different players, different people at large. I think the deal should go through and see what happens for the next 5 years after that. and see where this takes us at for the game industry, for the gaming community, for the creativity department, or the creativity aspect of the gaming companies, and take it from there. Let the deal happen.
I mean, they've said multiple times they're not making Call of Duty a console exclusive, that they want to bring it even to Nintendo when the deal goes through. World of Warcraft, I'm sorry, that's kind of a dead series. Even if they want to make World of Warcraft console exclusive, go ahead. It's kind of like buying an empty garage.
And when it comes down to the business aspect of the deal and such, that's what it is in the business world. It's business is business. I majored in business and at Southern New Hampshire University for almost a year and a half, up until last week or two. I had to drop out because of financial reasons again. But at the time, the first few months that we attended there for the program, they tell us the 4 Ps and and how to market, how to advertise. This is just basic business 101. And now, obviously, I did my business mathematics class years ago. If you want to include math or whatever, that's a little bit overdoing it with the deal of $70 billion. But whatever. That's how I look at it, guys. So it's just like a whatever to me right now. Let the deal happen. Screw it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, every argument is based in speculation at this point.
Mm-hmm.
We can't let it go through because this might happen. Well, so ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, next. Sony at CES 2023. Everything announced. Project Leonardo, Gran Turismo movie trailer, and more. Sony's CES 2023 press conference has wrapped up, and the company shared a handful of updates for PlayStation gamers. The headline is Project Leonardo, which is a brand new accessibility controller kit in development for PlayStation 5. Sony also shared updates on the Gran Turismo movie, PSVR 2, and more. Project Leonardo revealed new accessibility controller kit for PS5. Project Leonardo is PlayStation's brand new accessibility controller kit that's currently in development. There's no word yet on a release date or price, but Leonardo aims to remove barriers to gaming and help players with disabilities play more easily, more comfortably, and for longer periods on PS5. It was developed with contributions from accessibility experts, community members, and game developers. Gran Turismo, the movie, sneak peek revealed. Sony shared a first look at the upcoming Gran Turismo movie, which is set to hit theaters this August. The footage had words from stars Archie Madakwa, Orlando Bloom, and David Harbour, and showed off the movie's combination of real-life racing and Gran Turismo action. Okay, I've never heard of any of those actors. PlayStation 5 passes 30 million units sold. PlayStation's Jim Ryan announced on stage that the PlayStation 5 has passed 30 million units sold. Ryan also stated that the PS5 shortage is essentially over, saying everyone who wants a PS5 should have a much easier time finding one at retailers globally, starting from this point forward. The last official update we had on PS5 sales numbers was back in November when Sony revealed the console had passed 25 million units sold. So now they're up to 30 million units. Gran Turismo 7 is getting PSVR 2 support, and Beat Saber is coming to PSVR 2. Gran Turismo 7 will have PSVR 2 support when the new VR platform launches next month. The VR features will be available as a free upgrade for those that own Gran Turismo 7. VR hit Beat Saber is also heading to PSVR 2, although a release date was not announced. So, are you interested in any of these announcements made by Sony?
Personally, myself, I don't mind what's coming to be after CES 2023. I know I should change the topic per se in a sense, but at CES 2023, it kind of had the technologies coming out for the future, and one of them happens to be the what's it called, the Ring.com door car dasher. So that's like something for inside and also outside the car, in front of the car. That kind of was catch my interest right there. But as far as the games are concerned, it's like, it's like, okay, what games are standing out? Like, and then you say about the actors, we never heard these actors before, so it's kind of like, it's not like people like that of the actors of from Master Chief and Arbiter of the Halo video games. So,
the only thing, the PSVR headset, I know that's like going to be hundreds of dollars, so it's way out of my price range, even if I had a PS5. So, but I don't have a PS5, so it's definitely out of my price range. So I'm not really caring about that, about the games that come to it. But the Gran Turismo movie, it's like, what is this, trying to be competitor to Fast and the Furious? But Fast and Furious actually have movie stars. Like I said, these people that are in the movie, I've never heard of their names before. So
let's include like Vince Vaughn. Not Vince Vaughn.
Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he's actually part of the Gran Turismo movie. Now he'd be an add-on, a great add-on.
Yeah. But then again, the Fast and Furious, that's been done to death, basically. So what's Gran Turismo going to do that Fast and Furious did not do or could not do? But I do have to say, it reminds me of the meme when gas prices started going up. It said, the next Fast and Furious movie, and I showed Vin Diesel sitting on a bus. But like I said, there's 10 movies of Fast and the Furious, if I'm not mistaken? There's about 10. I can't hear you. I can't hear anything you're saying.
1 minute. Sorry.
Okay, now I can hear you. What were you saying?
I was saying, if you want to include the Hobbs Shaw's Sam, or whatever they call themselves, that movie like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
Hobbs Shaw and Sam, or whatever they call them. No.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean...
Tokyo Drift.
Okay.
That's from the 2000s.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like a Gran Turismo movie. Gran Turismo is basically a game where you play races and then buy better cars with your winnings.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you turn that into a movie, but I guess we'll see if the movie eventually comes out. Ready to move.
There are some fan bases out there that are willing to have another racing movie for the sake of a video game franchise instead of Gran Turismo or perhaps Grand Theft Auto, things that matter. So it's kind of like there's an open market for it somehow, some way. May not be a big market, but you get a few many people to watch it at a time. So
yeah, but I mean, like I said, it's just been done so many times, and if this was during the height of the Fast and the Furious series, I could understand that. You're trying to cash in while it's hot, but Fast and the Furious has been cold now for a few years, at least a couple.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of like, why now? But I guess time will tell. Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Next. UK government extends investigation of Xbox's Activision Blizzard deal due to its complexity. The results will be published later than expected. The UK government's Competitions and Markets Authority has extended its investigation to Xbox's acquisition of Activision Blizzard due to the complexity of the case. How complex can it be? As reported by GI Biz, the CMA announced an extension of up to 8 weeks as it processes the immense amount of evidence as well as the lengthy responses from both Sony and Microsoft and the public. The final submission date for the report, which will deem whether or not Xbox's acquisition of Activision Blizzard is negative for the industry, is now April 26th instead of March 1st. The CMA notes, however, that the process will be completed as soon as possible and may even arrive before the April deadline. The CMA said, in taking this decision, the inquiry group had regard to the scope and complexity of the investigation and the need to consider a large volume of evidence as well as main party and third party submissions. There is necessity to allow sufficient time to take full and proper account of comments that will be received in response to the inquiry's group provisional findings in due course and to reach a fully seasoned final decision in the statutory timeframe. The CMA's investigation began in July and has undergone several layers of query that has seen Microsoft and Sony in particular chime in on the deal's effects. Responding to concerns raised earlier in October, Microsoft essentially said that PlayStation is too big to fail even if it did acquire these games, and that Sony already has way more exclusives anyway. Microsoft's $68.7 billion deal has been scrutinized elsewhere as well, including by various U.S. senators, the City of New York, and the U.S. Justice Department, and finally headlined by the Federal Trade Commission suing to block the deal in December. So, what do you think about the first off, I want to go over this argument, because this is one that we have not heard from Microsoft as until this article. Saying Sony would be too big to fail even if Microsoft did get these games. Do you think that's true?
Well, no company is too big to fail as far as just because the fact that the company's getting bigger, more successful, and now they have financial problems or they're insolvent or whatever. That's we have to save them. We did this back in 2008, the 2008 crisis of the banks and all. That was a bad idea, but it propped up the economy. And now for the long term, how many years later, we got the pandemic and all, so it's kind of like, we're doing this all over again. And it comes out to specifically with this Microsoft deal of Activision and Blizzard. It's kind of like, it's a specific thing in the game industry to do something like this. There's always been acquisitions and mergers for how many decades, both gaming and non-gaming. And, to me, it's like a whatever now. Like I said before, it's like, let it be. Give it 5-10 years after the acquisition, after the combination of the Activision Blizzard with Microsoft, Sony. I take it from there.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the United Kingdom government has a question in it too. Yeah, because it's affected nationwide sales or nationwide ratings boards, especially when it include PEGI and the United States with ESRB and all. But that's just basically just ratings. That's about it. So they should have no say in the matter. In my perspective. Yeah,
that's true. No company is too big to fail. Yeah, that's what people thought about Disney, and look how much money Disney has been hemorrhaging recently.
And don't bail out these banks. They'll bail out these companies. They'll bail out nothing from now on. Let them fail. So if Microsoft wants to be the biggest dick in the room, no offense to them, and just dish out all this money just for the sake of being sure that they're the biggest, so let them be and see what happens to them. That's their decision. That's their fault.
Yeah. Not to mention, it's. I mean, what are we gonna do? Are you gonna say no to Microsoft and then say, but Sony can have as many exclusives as they want, even if Xbox gamers would want those games on Microsoft platforms? And it's kind of like, well, now you're not even being fair. Now you're just basically trying to bend the rules for Sony and hold them as strict as possible for Microsoft. I mean, that's the thing. If Sony does have enough first party games, like I said, I thought they should have offered something for Call of Duty to keep the Call of Duty going. Sony gets Call of Duty, Microsoft gets something that Sony has exclusivity for. I just really don't think the UK government, like the FTC, really should have a place in this. But apparently this is going to be a long ride.
Quite a long ride.
Yep. Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Next. Pay more to play. Why video game prices could rise in 2023. We take a look at why prices are going up and whether or not we'll see even more price shakeups in the new year. The video game industry has lately had to face a difficult truth. Hardware and software prices are going up. In the last year, Ubisoft, Take-Two, Xbox, and Sony all formally announced a bump in game prices from $60 to $70, and other AAA publishers such as Activision Blizzard, EA, Square Enix, and Warner Bros. Have quietly followed suit with games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Final Fantasy XVI, and Gotham Knights. In hardware, the PlayStation 5 got a price bump earlier this year across a number of regions, though its cost remains steady in the US for now. So what's going on here? Why are prices going up, and will they continue to rise in 2023? In short, yes, game price increases are likely here to stay, but the answer, as always, is a bit more complicated than that. There are a lot of conflicting factors at play, from game pricing history to inflation to the general games landscape, where consumers have wildly different perceptions about the value of a $60 versus one priced at $20. So if you're concerned about price increases or just want to know a bit more about why you're paying $70 to begin with for Redfall next year, it's worth getting to know a bit more about the game's pricing landscape and what to expect in the year to come. Wait, are game prices increasing? One key to understanding why game prices seem to be increasing is that while the bump to $70 AAA games is ostensibly a price increase, it's also not really an increase when you cast it in light historical inflation and pricing. GamesIndustry.biz recently published an excellent analysis of what's going on here, which itself is based on another excellent analysis by TechRaptor from 2020 of how video game prices have changed since the 1970s. Highly recommend reading both these pieces for a good overview of this issue, but the short version is that relative to inflation, games are actually much, much cheaper than they used to be. The Nintendo Entertainment System, for example, cost $180 at launch, and an average game costs $45. But when you adjust for inflation in 2020, as the TechRaptor price did, the NES would cost $432.71, and games on average would be $108.18. And the NES isn't an outlier. Every single older console and games followed this trend, with games and consoles getting gradually cheaper over time, even as the price tag itself appears more expensive. As Omdia principal analyst Liam Dien noted, if game prices had risen with inflation since 1990, games would now cost over $90 a pop. In fact, Dien even sent us this lovely graph illustrating how the inflation situation has impacted game prices, and is even already impacting existing $70 games. This explains one reason why price increases like the ones we're seeing now happen in the first place. But apart from that, video games have also become increasingly expensive to make. When I asked Canton Games' Dr. Sirkin Toto why game prices were going from $60 to $70, he replied that companies have no other choice. He pointed me to comments last year from former PlayStation boss Sean Layden, saying that the PlayStation 4 games he had helped get out the door cost at least $100 million apiece, and predicted that PS5 games would cost $200 million or more. There are reports that Grand Theft Auto 5 costs over $200 million to make. And it makes sense that they would. Newzoo's Rice Elliott noted that the core development team of Assassin's Creed 2 in 2009 consisted of roughly 450 people. Assassin's Creed Valhalla in 2020 required over 1,000 people across 17 different studios. That's a lot of salaries, benefits, packages, equipment, and more to pay for. Per reporter, Jason Schreier's interviewee estimates back in 2017 making a AAA video game cost then roughly about $10,000 per person per month. Assuming that number hasn't grown since then, it surely has, that ballparks at roughly $10 million per month for a game that takes much longer to make than games used to. And that doesn't even include all the other game-making expenses, like the increasing pricey technology used to make them, the expenses of marketing and distribution over longer and longer marketing cycles, and all the other bits like paying for booth space and E3, keeping the plumbing working at the office, company lunches and retreats, and on and on. Given all this, it's actually rather a bit surprising we haven't seen games get even more expensive than this already. Why haven't prices gone up more drastically before? Elliott offered a theory. The answer is that they've long offset these rising costs with DLC and microtransactions, bolstering premium game sales with smaller purchases, in-game boosters and cosmetics, as well as more robust content expansions, he said. Simply put, the industry has sustained itself with new monetization methods and live service strategies alongside the classic premium launches. Content subscriptions like Game Pass and PlayStation Plus are another factor in the mix. Another point worth mentioning is that many games are already much more expensive than $70, and people happily pay for them. As NPD analyst Matt Piscatella pointed out to me when I asked about game price increases, we already have deluxe, silver, gold, collectors, and other editions of games that sell for much more than $70 and are very successful, though there are usually extra pack-ins to incentivize those purchases. Meanwhile, games increasingly get deep discounts within a year of launch. A quick glance at Steam as I'm drafting this piece reveals sales on recent releases like Sonic Frontiers, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered, and Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection. While two of those are technically re-releases of older games, you could look at Steam pretty much any week, especially during large Steam sales, for example, after example of this. The console Triad isn't quite as generous with its big sales as Steam tends to be, but you can still find significant discounts across Xbox and PlayStation first-party games multiple times per year. Nintendo is the one major exception, but notably its games are still $60 for now. All that said, it's understandable to feel frustrated when game prices go up because at least in the United States, wages have not kept pace for many people. So when an entertainment product that already felt expensive creeps up by an extra $10, it feels painful on an individual level even if the economics behind it make sense. And very recently, a number of complex economic factors have resulted in especially severe inflation that's bumped the price of everything up seemingly all at once, making the $10 price increase feel like an added kick in the pants. These on-paper price increases are unlikely to ever go away. In fact, we're likely to see even more companies follow suit on these increases in the coming months and years. Who's raising prices next? I didn't realize this article was this long.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just hang in there. As the vast majority of large gaming companies have increased the prices on their biggest games, the handful of major companies that haven't yet nonetheless haven't closed the door on the idea. That applies to both software and hardware too. While Microsoft said in August it had no plans to increase the current suggested retail price of its consoles, comments from Xbox head Phil Spencer said indicate that it's not entirely off the table. Nintendo is in a similar boat with the Switch. Both Toto and Elliot told me they wouldn't be surprised if Xbox raised its console prices in 2023, and Elliot pointed out that the Xbox Series S will likely continue to be pushed as a low-cost Game Pass box. Deanne disagreed, suggesting that he didn't think Xbox necessarily needed to increase its console prices. Microsoft has been running a pretty aggressive pricing strategy recently, especially with the Series X, which they've been offering at steep discounts in a lot of markets, Deanne said. Market share is the name of the game for Microsoft, and they're not going to risk a golden opportunity to make up ground on Sony for the sake of a bit of extra short-term hardware revenue. None of the three thought Nintendo would increase prices on the Switch so far in its life cycle, though both Deanne and Toto pointed out that new models down the line would likely have higher price tags. Meanwhile, in terms of software pricing, just a handful of AAA publishers are still holding out on the $60 cap, and incidentally, the ones of note are all Japanese companies: Nintendo, Bandai Namco, Sega, Capcom. Nintendo has previously lagged behind Xbox and Sony in raising prices on its games. The latter two brought their first-party games to $59.99 in 2005, and Nintendo didn't match them until the release of the Wii U in 2012. Nintendo has kept its Switch games at that price ever since, but has also been the most notorious of all three companies for rarely putting its biggest first-party titles on deep discounts even years after release. With this history, it's pretty likely we'll see Nintendo maintain $59.99 for first-party games through the rest of the Switch's life cycle. And promisingly, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom already has pre-orders up at $59.99, meaning Nintendo will very likely stick to this specific gun for a while longer. But given the trajectory of its competitors, we should be braced for Nintendo to match Xbox and Sony soon, perhaps tied together with whatever its next console launch ends up being. As for the rest of the major publishers, it's likely their inevitable price increase will take place with little fanfare. EA, Square Enix, and Warner Bros. Did their price lifts over the last year almost in the shadows, simply dropping upcoming pre-orders at the new $70 price without issuing any big statements or explanations. Of course, if companies like Bandai Namco, Sega, and Capcom want to do the same, they'll need to time it with a release big enough to warrant it. For Capcom, the natural fit would be Street Fighter VI, but given that's currently up for pre-order at $60, Capcom might be willing to cling to the old price point a bit longer than most. Bandai Namco has Armored Core 6 coming up in 2023, which seems like a candidate for a $70 price tag. And as for Sega, Like a Dragon Ishin is firmly $60 for pre-orders, but the upcoming Like a Dragon 8 in 2024 might push the publisher into $70 territory with the rest. The Japanese giants have most probably been discussing price hikes for their software in the West for some time now, Toto said when I asked them about the developers above. Square Enix made heads turn last year when they said they want $70 for the Steam version of Forspoken. I don't think every Japan-made video game will cost $70 in the future, but players should get used to the idea for sure. Dian noted that while it was hard to make predictions on individual publishers, he did think there were other ways to sneak price increases to consumers without the fanfare of increasing overall AAA game cost. A big question is, to what extent have they shifted their business models from full game sales to DLC and microtransactions, Dian posited. It's much easier to raise prices for those quietly because there's no psychologically important $60 mark that consumers are anchored on. So some publishers might decide to stick with $60 and instead quietly increase other prices. The strength of the dollar and weakness of the yen also makes things easier for Japanese publishers. Their U.S. revenues are rising in yen terms purely thanks to the exchange rate, so they're more likely to stick to $60 than their American competitors. The good news in all this is that not every game is going to be $70. In the same way, not every game is now $60. All major publishers release a number of their non-blockbuster games each year for lower price points or using alternative business models like free-to-play, subscription services, and the like. But while $20, $30, $40, $50, and yes, even $60 games will still exist, if the top line goes up, we'll likely see the average prices under that slowly creep higher over time as well. That situation may start soon to bear out in the indie scene. Video game marketing consultant Chris Zukowski published a fascinating analysis earlier this year of the average price of every game released on Steam going all the way back to 2006 and broke down the averages by AAA games and indie games. Prior to 2012 or so, AAA and indie games on Steam were roughly priced the same, but from then on, AAA pricing has climbed while indie has remained stagnant. Both Zukowski and the folks at VG Insights have come to similar conclusions, urging indie developers to price their games higher, as all the data seems to indicate that bumping up a $5 up to $10 or $10 up to $20 doesn't really hurt total sales numbers much. While the data doesn't indicate that indie games are overall getting more expensive, anecdotally, Zukowski pointed out on Twitter that a number of indie games toward the end of 2022 launched at $20 or more. Choo Choo Charles and Dwarf Fortress being just two examples. Hey, you got a game named after you.
Choo choo!
Especially given the economic situation, the rising prices of AAA games, and a growing awareness of game pricing data, it's possible indie developers might begin a well-earned purse towards pricier games themselves. Subscription service saviors. So where does that leave all those of us who are still apprehensive about paying $70 multiple times a year to stay up on the latest games? It leaves us mercifully blessed with a few other options. Amidst the rise in game prices, we've also seen the rise of subscription services such as Game Pass, Ubisoft Plus, EA Play, PlayStation Plus, and others that offer free or discounted games for a low monthly price. Individual mileage varies on these, of course. It's not much help to folks who are huge fans of Nintendo games, for instance. But subscription services can certainly help ease the burden of having to pay for every game you want to try. Unfortunately, at least one of those subscription services, and arguably the most robust one, might also be on its way toward a price hike. During the same conversation in which he suggested Xbox games would get more costly, Phil Spencer also hinted that Game Pass could follow suit. Rumors have been swirling for some time that Xbox is considering ditching its base tier subscription and nudging its audience to a more expensive higher tier of some kind. The rumors haven't yet come to pass, but combined with Spencer's comments, it seems likelier than ever that we will see a shift of some kind in the new year. Toto and Elliot feel the same way. When I asked Toto about Game Pass, he called it a prime candidate for a price increase, especially if more Bethesda blockbusters arrive in the new year. And Elliot noted that Xbox has been priming customers for this for some time now by emphasizing Game Pass features like cloud, PC, and via the potential Activision Blizzard acquisition, eventual mobile gaming. Deanne again has a slightly different take. While he too expected price increases on subscription services, he didn't think they'd be as straightforward as I suggested, especially after Microsoft's disastrous attempt at increasing the Xbox Live Gold price in 2021. I remember that. Companies like Netflix haven't introduced new tiers to justify price increases or introduce lower tiers to give consumers more options, Deanne said. With Game Pass, Microsoft has so far focused on aggressively acquiring users. Game Pass and Game Pass Ultimate are still at their original launch prices, but inevitably, when Microsoft shifts focus to profitability, prices will have to go up. We think that this will most likely come in the form of a new higher tier Game Pass subscription. On the other end of that spectrum, we expect that in 2023, Microsoft will start testing a cheaper cloud-only Game Pass tier. Further down the line, we could also see Xbox taking a leaf out of Netflix's book and utilizing advertising to make entry-level tiers more affordable. On the brighter side, I think we're unlikely to see Sony make a similar move with PlayStation Plus for the sole reason that it literally just did an overhaul of the system earlier in 2022. While a price increase certainly isn't off the table, it's far more likely Sony planned the new PlayStation Plus structure to stay in place for at least a few years, and certainly with knowledge of the current economic conditions. As for Nintendo, at $20 online functionality and a smattering of retro games, that service is likely neither going anywhere else price-wise, nor is it magically going to turn into a free new game vehicle anytime soon. Rising even higher. All told, we're likely to see things continue to get more expensive in 2023. It's cold comfort, I know, to hear that actually gaming is more affordable than ever due to inflation. In the end, $70 is still more than $60, and especially impactful when you're gaming on a budget or there are just too many exciting AAA games dropping in a single year to reasonably buy them all, even if you're conservative, and wait for those big Steam sales to pick a few up. For now, at least, game prices are unlikely to rise any further than $70. Reports earlier this year indicated that Sony was planning to increase game prices above $70, but SIE CEO Jim Ryan claimed those were categorically false. While he did leave open possibility that prices could rise again in the future, given the heinous optics of doing so immediately after the $70 increase, we're unlikely to see another bump anytime soon. It's the kind of situation where if one major publisher tried to pull back such a move, all its competitors would immediately flock to brag about keeping their prices steady, a wave of bad press no individual company would be willing to weather. And Deanne noted that while future price increases aren't off the table, the rising cost of AAA development mean that publishers are looking for other ways to make money that don't rely on the $60, $70 purchase model. The pricing model of the future, rather, is battle passes, microtransactions, and the like. Or at least they want to shore up their revenue until they can call themselves to Sony or Microsoft, or maybe some other tech giant like Amazon or Apple, Deanne concluded. One other silver lining is to all that is, it's as bad as price increases can feel. The games we're getting that money are largely better than they've ever been in every aspect. And as Elliot concluded, and in our email correspondence, not every game will be $70. In fact, most won't be. Lessons learned from the advent of free-to-play on mobile have meant that titles that once would have been AAA premium games are now free-to-play, he said. Simply put, the industry has sustained itself with new monetization methods and live service strategies alongside the classic premium launches. Content subscriptions like Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus are another factor in the mix. All these choices and entry points to gaming means that, in our view, a $70 point for all premium games is an absurd concept. Price increases may be inevitable, but there's no shortage of options for excellent, cheaper gaming out there. Subscription services, digging deeper for cheaper games that aren't necessarily AAA big-budget blockbusters, and combining those deep discounts and Steam sales all can offer some relief from the growing expense. But yeah, we're with you. It stinks that Final Fantasy 16 is $70. Mm-hmm. So, what do you think of this gaming price increase, basically?
Well, I have to say, Triple J is meant to be. It's inevitable because over the last 35, almost 40 years now, since 1980s, we see that the gaming systems, gaming companies, games altogether have increased in productivity and efficiency. Yeah, it's supposed to make things cheaper. We've seen that with the tech market for how many decades so far. But when it comes to video games specifically, it's more and more sophisticated now more than ever. 30, 25 years ago. Back 25 years ago, games were like, what, $50 per pop, brand new? What doesn't have is PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, Super Nintendo. Now it's like, during just 2005 or 6, it was like $60 for the Xbox 360, PS3, PC, and Nintendo's Wii U, such and such. Now it's like $70. So it's expected to increase in profit, increase in productivity, and also the fact that it is adjusted for inflation. Excuse me, it's adjusted for inflation. No matter what, I mean, as time goes along, and the more technology gets more sophisticated, more advanced, it becomes more expensive at times. Yes, over time it will decrease in price for the previous tech of that matter. Then that's where it's a trade-off. So this is like business 101. This is just typical, price, profit, supply, demand. It is what it is, my friends. I'm willing to spend $70 for Final Fantasy 16 if I really want to buy the game. That is, personally myself, I don't mind. It's expensive, yes. $70 is a lot of money, but you're gonna get more for your buck. As long as the game companies don't get too cheap with their fans, because they want to put microtransactions in almost every game so far for how many years now. It's kind of fucked up on their hand to have microtransactions in a full price game. But if they incentivize people to say, hey, like Devil May Cry 5, for example, that game costs what, $65, right? Or $75, almost $80 if you want to get the special edition when pre-ordering it. And it's worth it until you get the pre-order of the special edition because you get 100,000 free orbs. You get like a boost in in certain skills, stuff like that. So it's a trade-off, and you don't have to buy the microtransactions for the sake of leveling up quicker, or you seek your time leveling up little by little, save every time you die, etc., etc. So it's kind of like that with any game so far for the last 5 years now. So let this price increase happen. It will adjust for inflation. People will be adjusted to the pricing, and that's it. Take it from there.
Yeah. I do have to say, RGT85, he talked about this when the issue first came up, when people were freaking out about games being $75. Like, that's never happened before, and it's like, really? Remember, I think it was a hockey game on N64 that came out $75 at launch? So, prices, games have released at higher than $60 before. It's just they were special once in a blue moon kind of games.
That's just special edition versions of the games.
Yeah, we're not even talking about special edition. I mean, special editions can go for $100 or even more.
If you get the Ultimate Edition, sometimes it'll be almost $200 sometimes.
WWE 2K22, which came out last year, their NWO for Life edition was like $120. But that had all the DLC, the NWO, had a few WCW rings that weren't included in the original price tag, stuff like that. But, offering bonuses like that it makes people feel, hey, maybe the elevated price is worth it for that game. So I don't blame the game companies for doing that. Obviously, like I said, would you rather be paying $100 a pop for every single game, with console still being $450, $500? No, we've been spoiled for them staying at $60 for a long time, which is why so many people are freaking out. So many people thought that's just the way it is. It's never been cheaper. It's never been more expensive. It's just, but that's different. And then you got the special editions of games, which some people go out for. I've gotten a couple myself. WWE 2K18 digitally, I did it. So I had all the DLC. I think day one. I think, yeah. And then on top of that, there's a bunch of, if $70 is too much, okay, so you can't get a free game, as often as you used to. There's still plenty of other ways you can still, maybe do a search. Whenever I buy a retro game on online, I do a Google search with the shopping tab picked, and I pick the lowest price game. I pick the lowest price of the game I want, as long as it includes the actual game. It's not just someone selling the case by itself.
Right.
I found Apocalypse on Mercari for like $8, and the thing is, I didn't know people on Mercari sold games.
Right.
But I'm not going to go back to Mercari to buy another game unless it comes up in a Google search again. So there's that. There's Game Pass. There's PlayStation Plus. For Nintendo fans, I haven't used them in years, but I think they're still around. If you're not in a small city like I am, maybe look into GameFly. GameFly, they send you 1 or 2 games per month. I'm not sure what their prices are now. But that you get 1 or 2 games a month. And it was you could have up to 50 games on your waiting list.
Oh yeah.
So at the time it was like $17 a month for one game at a time. It was like $25 a month for 2 games out at a time. And while I was in New York, they were pretty fast. Games took like a week or 2 to get here when I moved down here, so that's why I canceled the service. But but then again, with the systems I have now, Game Pass is actually more cost effective for me. Mm-hmm. But like I said, if you got Nintendo Switch, maybe you do that. But yeah, game prices are going to increase. And you know what? I say they could have been a lot more expensive if they had been keeping up. So thankfully, we've had this long decade or even 2 decades period where games were at $60. And they're still going to have the budget games that come out like at $20 or $30 at release. So it's not like every game is jumping up to $70.
Yeah.
Without exception. The AAA games will, but some games still have games coming. Some companies, like they said, Capcom and Sega, they have games coming out, and the pre-orders for those games are still at $60. So, it sucks that we're in the situation we're in financially, but there are ways to I guess weather the financial burden that's coming, weather the financial impact that we're going to feel from this rise. But it could have been a lot worse if, and we kind of were spoiled with this 2-decade-long period of games not going above $60 except for special cases or collector's editions.
Oh, yeah.
Ready to move on?
Yeah, ready.
All right. Next. Weapon durability in Dead Island 2 is a useful instrument for Dambuster Studios. Weapon durability and its application in games have long been hot topics amongst players. Some love it, some are fine with it, and others hate it. And those feelings vary depending on who you're talking to about this topic. I think in games like The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, when someone brings up weapon durability, as there was a highly debated aspect of its release. I didn't mind it at all, personally. Love it or hate it, weapon durability is a feature that will likely never go away in games, and that's okay because when it's done right, it can be a helpful way to push players towards something new. In 2011's Dead Island, weapon durability was a big part of the experience, and that feature will return in Dead Island 2 when it hits PlayStation and Xbox consoles and PC on April 28th. As for why, it's because developer Dambuster Studios finds it to be a useful instrument in guiding players. With the durability, we're not super harsh about it, game director David Stenton tells me during my Dead Island 2 cover story trip. We're not trying to be a survivor simulator or a survival horror game. It's there as an instrument so that we can encourage players to go back to a workbench and rather than repair your weapon or level match your weapon, maybe I'm level 10 and that favorite weapon that was my favorite a few hours ago is still level 5. Do I really want to pay the cost of level matching that weapon? Or actually, maybe I'll spend the money at a vendor and buy a new pre-modded weapon. Or maybe I'll spend the money applying this new mod and some of the ingredients I've got. It's about giving the players options and encouraging them to go back to a workbench and try something new. As someone who's played roughly 8 hours of Dead Island 2, you can read my full game thoughts on that experience in the latest Game Informer cover story here. I agree with Stenton's assessment of what weapon durability is doing in the game. To be honest, there wasn't really a moment where I even thought too hard about weapon durability. Combat is frantic, fast-paced, and chaotic. When I was in the middle of killing a horde of zombies and a weapon broke, I'd switch to another via my rather large weapon wheel without much thought about the one no longer viable because of its durability. Sure, there were moments when one of my favorites was essentially not usable because its durability was gone, but I almost always had a close second favorite ready to go. I imagine it'll be easy to get attached to weapons in Dead Island 2. I especially love my slaughtering cremator cleaver and enhanced impactor improvised hammer, but in just my 8 hours with the game, I probably encountered more than 100 others. If one of your weapons breaks, a new favorite is likely not too far from you. Okay, so what are your thoughts on weapon durability in games?
Well, when it comes to Dead Island specifically, it sucked that you find a special weapon when you used to knock the crap out of your zombie friends, and after a while, it deteriorates after a while, and you want to use the weapon over and over after that, but you can't unless you find a workshop and have materials and make it harder, stronger, and more durable to fight during melee attacks. So hopefully Dead Island 2 is going to improve that system. Because I did read the article, a little bit of it. So the game is the newest Game Informer magazine right here, you can tell. So see with the guy, black guy, of course, with his his gun and shit. So pretty cool, right? So we're going to talk about this matter in kind of detail. So you never know what's going to happen during this release of Dead Island 2. So that's my opinion.
Okay. My opinion is I really don't mind weapon durability in games. One of my favorite games for the 360 is Dead Rising, the first one. Mm-hmm. And they didn't really have, actually no, Dead Rising 2 is where the weapon crafting came, I think. Yeah, Dead Rising 2. Okay, so but yeah, you would go to the workbench, you'd put two items together, you tape it together, and you could have like a shipping oar with chainsaws on each end or something, and it was awesome. Not only because you would make weapons that you probably never thought of, you just wanted to see if the item could be combined with something, but you also could make weapons that you wanted to see what could be combined and what could not. And that's in Dead Rising 2. So I kind of like it in Dead Island if it gives you a lot of chances to experiment with what could be put together and what you could end up creating. I mean, in Dead Rising 2, you could create an electric wheelchair where it would, like, you push a wheelchair, and if any zombie sits in it, it actually electrocutes the zombie sitting in it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't have a problem with weapon durability in games. Dead Rising 2, while I have some problems with that game, weapon durability and weapon experiment and weapon modding, the experiment, that's not one of them. Ready to move on?
I'm ready.
All right. Next. Xbox Game Showcase coming January 25th, but no Starfield report. Xbox could be gearing up to host its own Nintendo Direct-style showcase called Developer Direct. Xbox fans might not have to wait too long to see what's on the horizon, as Microsoft is apparently looking to kick off its 2023 marketing cycle with the first showcase of games. According to sources at Windows Central, Microsoft will host the Developer Direct showcase on January 25th, a live stream of game reveals and updates similar to Nintendo's Direct shows and Sony's State of Play events. Arcane's upcoming co-op vampire hunting game Redfall is set to be in the spotlight, while Minecraft Legends, Forza Motorsport, and ZeniMax's online studio content will also be featured. This won't be a major live stream such as Microsoft's previous E3 showcases, but the idea behind Developer Direct is said to be a more intimate and transparent look at the exclusive games coming to Xbox consoles and PC. Xbox Games VP Aaron Greenberg also tweeted this week that a fun week lies ahead, although that could also be a reference to the new Xbox One promotion or Xbox Oreo promotion that just launched. Currently, Bethesda's Starfield won't be included in the first edition of Developer Direct, with the report claiming that Microsoft will instead be the focus of a dedicated and bigger showcase. So far, Microsoft has confirmed that Redfall and Starfield will launch in the first half of 2023, while Redfall rumored to be releasing in late May. Both of Microsoft's heavy hitters will adopt a higher $70 price tag when they launch, although both games will also be available as Day 1 Game Pass releases. The Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase had plenty to show off back in June of 2022, with many of the games from that live stream having a tentative 2023 release date. With titles such as Pentiment and Overwatch 2 having been released on Xbox already, the other big announcements included Diablo 4, Hollow Knight Silksong, and Hideo Kojima's mystery game, teased as part of a partnership with Microsoft. So, any of these games that were announced, are you looking forward to them? I can't hear you. Did something happen?
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Now you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, that's kind of strange. Like I said, I'm having technical difficulties, guys. I'm sorry. It's a new device, new computer, so still. But yeah, what games you mentioned? You said Starfield's one of them, right?
Redfall, Starfield. Do I still have? I let it go. But they said Diablo 4, a mystery game from Hideo Kojima. Those are the only ones I remember.
Well, Redfall seems like one of the most anticipated games to look forward to, even though it's kind of it's mundane in my perspective, the gameplay. So, but it is pre-alpha build, so hopefully I'll improve the gameplay overall, because it looks like visually not so stunning. At the same time, it's okay to play it. So it's like, okay, I'll see it another trailer, see what's going to happen for this year or whatever. As far as Starfield is concerned, that's the number one game for the Xbox Series that I want to get, one of the games to get for Xbox Series X and S. To be honest with myself, newest games coming out for the last several months, I don't really want to buy them right away. I mean, I think they hold up on the shelf for later use. I still have how many games I can still play. I still play my GTA 5. I still play my Apex Legends for my tournaments and all that I take part in to make some money whenever I can, or to pay the bills, whatever. Things that matter. So it's kind of like, I mean, like I said, the lineup for this year's games is seems in its quantity okay, but the quality is like from Redfall especially, it's like they're lacking. Something's lacking with these games. So I can't put my finger on it, but I think there's something lacking. The only game that really stands out so far is Starfield.
Yeah.
Everything else, Dead Space, obviously, we know that the original Dead Space was one of the best games in the 2000s. I still have a copy of Dead Space 1, 2, and 3. So far, I only played the first 45 minutes to an hour of Dead Space 1. And it looks good still, after all these years. Now, the remake or the remaster, whichever comes first, it's all right. It's not my anticipated game, but if I have the money, I want to buy a copy. But other than that, everything else, it's like a whatever. I'll just let hold off on it. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, that zombie game, I forget if it was. I think Redfall. I'm interested in that. Like I said, for people who can't afford it, because that's going to be a $70 price tag, it will be in Game Pass on day one. So
that's good. That's right.
Yeah. So I think Starfield is same story. So at least those games will be available, even if you don't have the $70 to spend on it, as long as you have a Game Pass subscription. So yeah. So but as far as the specific games, nothing really else interested me in that announcement. Hideo Kojima's mystery game does have my interest somewhat. I want to find out more about that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, yeah, that's I really don't care about Diablo, since I never got into it. Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, next. Anime fighting game under attack by hackers who have made it unplayable. Arc System Works' Guilty Gear Strive is plagued by an exploit that lets jerks control aspects of your game. Guilty Gear Strive Arc System Works mega popular 2D anime fighter, is under attack by hackers who've resurfaced a fatal exploit that seemingly causes the game to become unplayable for some players online. Like most competitive games, Guilty Gear Strive has a method for storing player data. This is called the R code, and it houses all sorts of information from your in-game handle to your win-loss record, among other stats. It's not the most stable, as players reported a couple years ago that R code failures would not allow the game to connect to online matches. And last December, hackers discovered they could change a player's R code details, such as a name, in the middle of a match to crash a game. It seems this exploit has reared its head again, as hackers find they could change not only player's name, but also force a player to send in-game chat messages and create memory leak problems that slow a match to a crawl. This issue seems to mostly affect Strive's online modes, including arcade, dojo, training, and others. As Strive Pro Julian Hotashi Harris said in January through a YouTube video about the exploit, that it seems to occur at infrequent intervals, since who's ever doing this hacking thing appears to be on Eastern European time. On top of sending unprompted messages and crashing games, Hotashi noted that the hack can cause some sort of GPU or CPU leak, forcing Strive to slow down your computer down to an unplayable rate, or worse yet, black screen of death your computer. Hotashi also said that while you're more likely to be targeted by this exploit if you're a prominent personality in the community, the issue isn't relegated to just streamers or on PC. Console players have reportedly been affected as well. I guess no one's safe now. Fighting game commentator Steven Sajam Lyon said, talk of the hack is an important discussion to have, as Frosty Frostings, a well-known tournament circuit where Strive will appear, kicks off on February 2nd, so players are having a hard time getting their training in while this exploit is running rampant. There's a feature that lets you follow people in Guilty Gear Strive, Sajam said, and so even if the person's not streaming their matches live, you'll know when they're online playing people and doing stuff. So the way you have to practice is you have to play in offline mode. Kotaku reached out to Arc System Works for comment, but didn't receive a reply before publication. However, Zach Shimmy Tan, an Arc System Works producer, said on Twitter that he's back in the office and looking at the reports. Meanwhile, the R-Code exploit has gotten so bad that a Strive VTuber tournament scheduled to start on January 6th was postponed for now. Hopefully, Arc System Works can iron this out soon so folks get back to gaming. So what do you think of this exploit that's been apparently hackers have been using to make gamers' lives living hell?
It's no surprise. After, I'm sure, how old is this fighting game anyway? And
it's not that old. It's new.
That's strange, because usually after a few years, hackers will evade old games like that. Black Ops 2, for example, which has been infested with hackers for many years now. You know, that happens after a few years of the game's release. But this is kind of a special case, because these anime fighting games usually are like have these audiences that will not hack each other's gameplay, because they respect each other's space and also their ability to fight in the game and such. Unlike games like, you know, Apex Legends or maybe a little bit of Fortnite here and there, you probably see, you know, some hackers want to ruin people's experiences just by exploiting that. But that's like hit and miss with those games. But this one, it fucking sucks, because now it's like this anime fighting game, whatever it's called exactly, because obviously there's various fighting games, like what's it called, the Ruby fighting game, or the special, it's called Blue Cross Fighting, or Blue something Fighting, and it features Ruby characters. I mean, if it's like that type of game, then that sucks, because not many people play that game. So this is a huge blow to the gaming anime fighting game community, you know. So
yeah,
that's all I have to say for the matter.
It just sucks. I mean, these exploits should be ironed out before. I mean, they're going to start a tournament with this game next month, and it's like, how are they going to do a tournament if hackers are just crashing random people's games in the middle of it? So, unfortunately, they have to get this ironed out ASAP, especially if the tournament's going to start in February, which is just a couple weeks from now.
Oh yeah.
Ready to move on?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next. A fully playable Left 4 Dead prototype has been discovered 15 years later. A prototype of Valve's zombie co-op has been found in the recent wave of Counter-Strike leaks. A trove of Counter-Strike maps recently leaked on the internet, including a mod that was the predecessor to the survival co-op game Left 4 Dead. The mod is even fully playable as long as you know how to set up your own server. According to Gaming Leaks streamer Tyler McVicker, the prototype originated as a game mode in Counter-Strike Condition Zero. Players would assemble in groups of up to 4 people and play as the terrorists. The goal was to plant a bomb while defending against waves of infinitely respawning hordes of counter-terrorists. These enemies only used melee attacks, which made them the perfect predecessor to Left 4 Dead Zombies. The developer at Turtle Rock Studios clearly thought this mode had a lot of potential. They polished it further during the development of Counter-Strike Counter-Strike Source, where it was renamed Terror Strike. Left 4 Dead director and Turtle Rock co-founder Mike Booth confirmed the mod's existence over Twitter. "It was our lunchtime go-to game," he wrote. "We wanted Valve to release it, but never got traction for some reason." Turtle Rock was known as Valve South after Valve acquired it in 2008. They had always started development on the survival co-op, but they didn't have an advocate within the parent company. Former Valve writer Chet Falzek told Kotaku that Turtle Rock had already started working on Left 4 Dead before he became involved. The game caught his attention, and he became its champion. "I was one of the people who checked it out and told Gabe about it at lunch," said. "I went on so much about it, he said I should just go work on it." As a result of his involvement, he was able to increase the scope of its production. Falzek recruited over 100 Valve developers for Left 4 Dead after the company had acquired Turtle Rock. Valve published the zombie survival co-op in 2008. A sequel followed in the very next year. Turtle Rock eventually separated from the publisher and became an independent studio in 2011. It's pretty neat that such a prolific game originated as a mod that its creators had been personally passionate about, rather than a carefully planned product. If you want to see what Left 4 Dead looked like back in its ideation stage, you can download the mod here. So, what do you think of this mod of Left 4 Dead or being discovered?
Well, Left 4 Dead it's Left 4 Dead 2, right?
No, it's the original Left 4 Dead before Left 4 Dead was a thing.
Really? Oh, okay.
It was originally a mod for Counter-Strike.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's how old the Left 4 Dead game franchise is, pretty much. Well, that's pretty good. I will admit, I never got too involved with Left 4 Dead games. I will admit that. I do own the copy of each Left 4 Dead, Left 4 Dead 2. The last time I played it was at least 4 or 3 years ago now. And those are good experiences to play in those games. Now the mods, that's for the big things, as God knows when, with Left 4 Dead games. And there's always something new that's discovered every few months, a couple of years of its inception. It's interesting to see that it's getting better and better with their experiences with the mods and all. I'm not a big modder or a big use of modding. Last time I did any major with it was with Alien vs. Predator 2. And that was like in 2007. I was like 20 years old at the time. And after that year, the next year, the game got shut down on the servers by Activision. But so I revitalized the servers. So since then, I've played on and off since. So yeah, it's a hit and miss for me. No, I'm not a big modder, so I can't say much about it too much, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, I don't know much about setting up my own servers. That's what you would need if you wanted to play this game with other people online. But, I'm a big fan of the Left 4 Dead games. I especially like Left 4 Dead 2. I like Back 4 Blood, which I played on stream. So, yeah, this if I knew how to set up my own servers and stuff, that would, set up my own server for the game, I would probably play it. I just don't have that know-how, so, but, yeah, it's amazing to see, how they had basically something like this mod all the way back before Left 4 Dead was even a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then when they saw how the enemies attacked the human players, they were like, hey, this would work great with zombies as the antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
And Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2 has really been successful so far, so.
Definitely.
And I don't know about Back 4 Blood. I know a lot of people are playing it, so.
Yeah, based on my perspective, Back 4 Blood may not be as popular as Left 4 Dead 2, but it still has a niche audience that still come and go to play that specific Back 4 Blood game, because people consider it, or at least in my opinion, people consider it to be like Left 4 Dead 3. You know, so it's like spiritual. That's Left 4 Dead 3. You know,
but like if you were going to find like an online game to play, online co-op zombie killing game, Back 4 Blood is basically the same thing. Like you said, it's Left 4 Dead 3, and a lot more people are playing Back 4 Blood. So I mean, a lot of these people. If you like the Left 4 Dead series and you haven't played Back 4 Blood yet, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, Back 4 Blood's not bad with people that you team up with, in your friends list and all, but playing it by yourself may be a little bit boring at times. But if you have friends, especially the ones you know very well for long periods of time, like you and I, Triple J, we'll have a good experience together. So, well,
actually, not so bad. It's not so bad. It's just the AI is a little dumb. Like I had to go on a ship and set the explosives and get off the ship before the explosives went off. But it's like, why am I the only one going? Why aren't my artificial intelligent partners coming with me? You know,
unless you have like
I already got them to where they were safe. Obviously, if I was playing with other people, then it would have been a much easier time. But yeah. So I mean, but other than that, I'm a big fan of the Left 4 Dead series, and I like Back 4 Blood as well. So,
yeah, definitely.
Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, next. Xbox Game Pass is adding 3 JRPGs in January. Here's a look at everything coming to Xbox Game Pass in January. Just a few days into the start of 2023, Microsoft has announced its latest batch of games coming to the Xbox Game Pass catalog in January, as well as which titles will be removed to make space for the new arrivals. Some of the games have previously been confirmed, and for Atlas fans, there's a lot to look forward to. Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden headline the first batch of January Game Pass releases, bringing the classic RPGs to Xbox consoles, PC, and cloud gaming on January 19th. On January 20th, I think we talked about this, you'll be able to jump into Capcom's Monster Hunter Rise, in which team up with other players to battle deadly monsters, craft a wide variety of gear, and prevent the world from meeting an untimely end. In case you missed it, several other Game Pass surprises are now available, including Mortal Shell and Stranded Deep. 6 games will be leaving Game Pass this month, so if you haven't played them yet, you have until tomorrow to try those games out. Danganronpa, Trigger Happy Havoc, Nobody Saves the World, and several other titles. So, do you care about any of the games of the role-playing games coming to Game Pass?
And what are these role-playing games again?
Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Monster Hunter Rise.
Okay, I never heard of. I heard of Monster Hunter. That's like the I have Monster Hunter World, a part of my Xbox library. I bought that game sometime late last year, so that's a good game to play. But the Persona 4, I heard good things about Persona for many years since I was like a young adult. I should say when I was a kid though, because obviously I wasn't in tune with the Japanese culture until after 2005, 2006, when I start to, live on my own accord with my own content that I control myself. Because obviously beforehand, it was my mother, my family, they're the ones who regulate how many games I'm supposed to get and how much and when to play and stuff. So, but after I graduated from high school, it was more of a big, huge, wide way of awakening in anime content for me. Bleach, Vash Stampede in that particular anime series, Inuyasha and all. So, it's pretty cool to see these animes to come forward into my life properly and accordingly. But now, as far as the RPG is concerned, I've always had my hand in Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy VII. I did try to play other games, Final Fantasy 8, 9, and 10, especially 10. and these JRPGs, what I call them, like it's Persona. I still have Persona 5 Royale on my console. I want to try to play that sooner or later. Try to do a recording of it if ever. Got plenty of time for that matter, so just arrange my time a bit. Currently, I'm trying to look for some kind of work to make something other than gaming tournaments. So, but yeah, so yeah, that's all I have to say for the time being.
Yeah, I really don't care about these role-playing games. I really should try the Persona series. I never have. I'd rather them bring. I know these games would probably belong to Sony, but I'd rather them bring like Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross onto the Game Pass service if they could.
Yeah, I have Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross as well.
So if you like Persona or Monster Hunter Rise, those games are coming to Game Pass within the next week. Do you want to move on and hear about the games leaving Game Pass tomorrow?
Yeah, sure, why not?
All right. Next, Xbox Game Pass loses these 6 games very soon. Microsoft is removing 6 games on January 15th. Microsoft has announced the next set of titles set for removal from Xbox Game Pass library. A total of 6 games are leaving the Game Pass library across console, cloud, and PC on January 15th, including We Happy Few, a title developed by Microsoft's own Compulsion Games. Microsoft bought Compulsion just before the game launched in August 2018, and Compulsion had an existing publishing deal with Gearbox for We Happy Few. This could explain why it's leaving Game Pass, since Microsoft's own games typically don't get removed from the library. In addition to We Happy Few, Microsoft is removing Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, Nobody Saves the World, Paparazzi, The Anacrusis, and Windjammers 2. As usual, Game Pass subscribers save 20% on all Game Pass titles, so that's a silver lining at least. In terms of what's being...
Huh? I'm back in a minute, Jay. I'm back in a minute, Jay. Just continue reading.
All right. In terms of what's being added to Game Pass in January, Microsoft announced 3 titles that we went over. Microsoft said in a blog post that it's just getting warmed up, so fans can likely expect more additions as well in the time ahead. So, do you miss any of the games that are coming that are actually leaving Game Pass in the next day or two? Okay, he's not there right now. I have to say, when it comes to these games, I really am not familiar with any of them. I did play We Happy Few once. That was kind of a weird game. Like, you were publishing and like going through news articles, and then I went to like a first person open world type game, so that was fine. Not something I was not something I really wanted to get back at, but something I would have played again. The other games I have absolutely I don't know anything about, so it's not like I'm gonna miss these games. So, yeah, when Dr. Games 101 gets back, I'll ask if he's going to miss any of these games.
Sorry about that, Trevor. You continue reading.
Okay, well, I'm done. I'll just go over the titles in a list that are leaving Game Pass tomorrow. Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc, Nobody Saves the World, Paparazzi, The Anacrusis, We Happy Few, and Windjammers 2. Are you going to miss any of these games?
We Happy Few. I would just play that game more often.
Yeah, I played it once. So
I played it a couple of times, though. I'm up to the part where I go into the city, or actually it was like fighting some people at some sort of... It was like basically the first hour and a half of the game I'm pretty much playing. And basically I was in this arena, everyone was cheering on and beating the crap out of some people. That's what I did. Then I tried to get to the ventilation shafts and stuff like that. So now I'm out in the open world, trying to get into some sort of city or town. It's
you pretty much got up to about the same part I did.
something like that. Yeah, where I have to have a key or a bridge or something to open. So I don't remember all the details, but I'm still exploring that area. So it's like at least like 2 years ago. I haven't played that game so far.
Yeah, I haven't played it in a while either. I forgot it was actually on Game Pass, to be honest.
Yeah.
Sucks.
I
What about the other games? You gonna miss any of them?
I don't remember seeing those games, to be honest with myself. I don't really remember.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
So nothing else to say about that, or?
That's correct. Yeah. Sorry about that, guy.
So ready to move on?
Yep.
All right. Next, Ubisoft cancels 3 unannounced games. Skull and Bones delayed again. Ubisoft has canceled 3 unannounced games the company has revealed in its latest financial update. It has also delayed Skull and Bones, which has already been delayed several times in the past. The company cites major challenges as the industry continues to shift towards mega brands and long-lasting titles that can reach players across the globe, across platforms and business models. It says that over the last 4 years, its strategy has been about building long-lasting live games and adapting our strongest franchises like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy games like Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, and The Division to converging trends to make them truly global brands. However, the games from this investment phase have yet to be released, while our recent launches have not performed as well as expected, the press release reads. Compounding this effect in the context of worsening macroeconomic conditions, the trends over the holiday season, in particular last week of December and beginning of January, have been markedly and surprisingly slower than expected. This overall context has triggered a full review of our revenue prospects, leading to increased cautiousness over the coming years. Considering this, combined with the significant additional investments that resulted from lockdown and new working patterns that have a profound impact on productions across the industry over the past 3 years, Ubisoft is announcing today a set of measures dedicated to strengthening its long-term growth and value creation prospects. It's in those measures that Ubisoft reveals it has canceled 3 unannounced projects on top of the 4 already announced in July 2022, referring to its cancellation of Ghost Recon Frontline, Splinter Cell VR, and 2 more unannounced titles last year. Ubisoft then reveals that Skull and Bones has been delayed a 5th time. It will now be released early 2023-24. However, players will be able to play it soon, it sounds like, in the game's upcoming beta phase. As for why Skull and Bones has been delayed again, Ubisoft says the game needs more polish. The additional time has already paid off and brought impressive improvements to its quality, which has been confirmed by recent playtests, the press release reads. We believe players will be positively surprised by its evolution. We have decided to postpone its release in order to have more time to showcase a much more polished and balanced experience and to build awareness. Elsewhere in the financial update, Ubisoft notes that it has decreased its Q3 2022-23 net bookings target from roughly $892 million to about $779 million. The company again cites the more challenging environment, noting that big 2022 releases like Mario, Rabbids Sparks of Hope, and Just Dance 2023 perform lower than expected. Do you think Skull and Bones will ever actually come out?
At this rate, it's hard to tell because Skull and Bones, if you refer to as Secret Society over in Yale, like 150 years ago, most the powers that be don't want that out there in detail to the public, and we're not trying to sound conspiratorial, like it's conspiracy theory, but there's been records of the school, Yale, having a organization called Skull and Bones. And John Kerry, George Bush, I think also Al Gore were members of Skull and Bones back in the day, like at least 25 to 50 years ago, give or take, or whatever their age was. Bring them back to the 1970s and 60s and all. Being a part of these groups, and if the word gets out there in detail, whether it's a video game or not, it's like it'll cause a little bit of suspicion to the government at large, because George Bush was president, Al Gore was vice president, John Kerry was a candidate for 2004 election, and Secretary of State, if I remember correctly, for Obama. So it's like this big giant clusterfuck that should be out there and about based on the government officials' perspectives. I don't. To be honest with you, I don't mind bring it out there. Break them out.
Okay,
So, yeah.
I don't actually think Skull and Bones has anything to do with that, but thank you for going into conspiracy theories. Let me get this from Wikipedia. Skull and Bones is an upcoming action-adventure video game developed by Ubisoft Singapore and published by Ubisoft. The game is set to release during 2023-2024 for Amazon Luna, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series. A version for Google Stadia was planned before the services shut down. Okay, so I don't know where this upcoming action-adventure game went into politics from 20 years ago. One has nothing to do with the other, it seems.
The name Skull and Bones is an actual organization. That's why it sounds suspicious. That's what I'm trying to say. To those who are their research on behind the president's backgrounds for the last 25, 30 years, it's connected to that name Skull and Bones at Yale University, or the college, or the university at large. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I think it's very telling that Ubisoft has canceled other games that never got started, but they're just delaying this one. So I think Skull and Bones will come out. I don't think it has anything to do other than the similarity in name to whatever conspiracy Dr. Games 101 was talking about. But it's, unfortunately it's just gonna take more time. But they did say it's good. It's going to be entering the beta phase soon, where people will be able to play test it themselves. So,
well, like I said, I don't know all the details. I will admit that to myself. But based on the title, Skulls and Bones, to those who do their research, that's a group in Yale as well, date back to the 1850s and the 1870s, and it's been in the making as far as like being the powerhouse of political, economic, and military leaders that are in our country as of today. Like George Bush is one of them. George W. Bush is one of them. I think who else was John Kerry? He was one of them as well. So that's why it seems weird that it chose that title, Skulls and Bones, and hopefully.
Wait. The organization or the name of the cover-up was called Skulls and Bones?
Yeah.
I think this is just Skull and Bones.
Well, Skull and Bones or Skulls and Bones. I'm not sure the exact word, and it like I said, it seems familiar in title. But do you do your research on this matter? This is not some opinion or a plain conspiracy theory. This has been researched as well as been documented at Yale University for how many decades so far. So it's just up to the people that want to know more about it, and I hope it's in regards to that gameplay in that fashion. I hope so, but because they do like rituals, to initiate the. Let's just say it's like to initiate some sort of like if you want to be part of the pack, you can't leave the pack at all, even after you graduate from college of Yale. In the Skull and Bones, it's it's that detailed up to the point where it's like once you go into that group, you're never going to come out of it. That's how deep this stuff goes. So
okay,
and I hope it'll be the actual video game to portray that matter. I doubt it though, but
yeah, I highly doubt it too. Otherwise, this video game would probably be facing many more challenges. But I guess we'll learn more when it enters the beta phase and people have a chance to play test it.
Oh yeah.
Ready to move on?
One more thing though, guys. Skull and Bones, like I said, it's a procedure or ritual that we have, and it sounds very stupid and weird at the same time. What I just said sounds like it's far-fetched, but if the gaming companies are really making something like that to portray those activities, that'll cause a little bit of an uprising and between the government officials, certain government officials, and the creators of this game. So they better tread lightly on how they're gonna put it out there.
Yeah, but until I see something concrete, I think the name similarity is just a coincidence.
Of course, as always.
But we don't know, like we said, until the beta testing phase starts, we don't know.
As always, it's always the coincidence.
Ready to move on?
I'm ready.
All right. Next, hold on. PlayStation Plus January update has something for everyone. From the moody teen drama of Life is Strange to the stylish action of Devil May Cry 5, the latest PS Plus update has range. If you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you're in for a pretty sweet time starting on January 17th. And if you're not, the first catalog update for 2023 is tough to say no to. The latest injection of games to Sony's subscription service features some undead co-op slaying, Super Saiyan shenanigans, a couple of classic games, and much more. The PlayStation Plus subscription service, much like other gaming subs, regularly updates with new games every month. The service is spread across 3 tiers: Essential, Extra, Premium, which each cost $10, $15, and $18 a month respectively. Premium gets you the largest catalog. It's the only tier that nets you access to PlayStation games, as well as letting you take advantage of Sony's game streaming service, once known as PS Now. This month's highlight includes Back 4 Blood, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Devil May Cry 5, Just Cause 4, Life is Strange, Before the Storm, and Siphon Filter 3, among others. PlayStation Plus, Extra, and Premium PS4 games. Back 4 Blood, Dragon Ball FighterZ, Jet the Far Shore, Just Cause 4 Reloaded, Life is Strange Before the Storm, Life is Strange, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Omno, and Erica. And the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium PS5 games: Back 4 Blood, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition, Jet the Far Shore, Just Cause 4 Reloaded. If you're on the Premium tier, you also get the following PlayStation 1 classics, which are Siphon Filter 3, Star Wars Demolition, and Hot Shots Golf 2. If you haven't played Devil May Cry 5 yet, and you like stylish hack-and-slash action, it should probably be your first download of the lot. Otherwise, I definitely recommend giving Siphon Filter 3 a spin. The stealthy action series never reached critical acclaim like Metal Gear Solid did, but it's definitely a pleasant trip down PlayStation memory lane. Let's not resurrect the Snake vs. Gabe wars in the comments, though. Please, obviously, Snake wins. Yeah, so do any of these games, like, I know you don't have a PlayStation, but do any of these games, including the PlayStation Classics, interest you, or?
Well, PS5 has obviously been out for 2 years now, so it's hard to keep track of something that you don't have a possession of. PS5 is one of them.
Well, some of these games are available on Game Pass, like we talked about Back 4 Blood. Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition is PlayStation exclusive, just for the Extra and Premium. Just Cause 4 was on Game Pass at one time. Life is Strange, you got both remastered versions. So it's not like we've never tried any of these games, and I think you did a full playthrough of Siphon Filter 3, if I'm not mistaken.
I played the first Siphon Filter playthrough.
Oh, so that was the first one?
Yep, and that's on my BitChute mainly.
Okay.
You see all the parts of my BitChute, bitchute.com/Dr. Games 101. But obviously that's a site where all the conspiracy theories are at, so but best of luck to try to look for my content there.
So, like, any of the games that PlayStation fans are getting, are you interested in any of them? Because, like I said, a lot of them I've seen on Game Pass before.
Well, if you've heard of Siphon Filter, I have the first 3 Siphon Filter games on the PS1. So,
okay. Well, what about Back 4 Blood or Just Cause 4?
I already have Just Cause 3 as well as 4, if I remember correctly, on the Game Pass, if not through the special offers that was given to buy as far as the games with gold.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's the same library as that of the Xbox One, then I must have oversaw it and then played it once, like Back 4 Blood. I played a couple of times, so it's all right. Those games, but it doesn't really catches my eye, really. To be honest with myself.
And I got you Life is Strange and Life is Strange Before the Storm remastered for Christmas.
Thank you for that. So I'll try to play that one day again because I already beat episode 1 of Life is Strange 1. So
My question: are you going to go back to the prequel beforehand, or are you going to do this first, or are you going to do the first Life is Strange first?
the first Life is Strange.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so again, these games, I love Life is Strange and Before the Storm. I'm actually playing True Colors right now. Just Cause 4, I played it once. I think I did like it. Back for Blood, big fan of. The other games, I never got into Siphon Filter. I should have given it a try. Maybe I can one time. Maybe I can one day, depending how much that game goes for. Hot Shots Golf 2, don't really care about. So, yeah, there's a few games in there that I like that are multi-platform that I have experience with.
Right.
Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, next. Dead Space Remake continues to look terrifyingly great in new story trailer. Developer Motive Studio and publisher EA have released a new story trailer for its upcoming remake of Dead Space, and the game continues to look terrifying and beautiful. Due out on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC later this month on January 27th, this might be one of our last looks at the remake before it's in the hands of players. Fortunately, this new trailer is nearly 2 minutes of cinematics and gameplay from the remake focused on the story of Dead Space. As expected, this remake isn't changing much at all, utilizing the same story from the original 2008 release with updated visuals and audio, plus some new voice lines for protagonist Isaac Clarke. So, as you can see, Dead Space Remake continues to look great. We can't wait to play it in just a few weeks. I'm going to play the trailer now, and then we'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just before I do, okay, just wanted to make sure OBS was showing what I see.
Brace yourselves. It's gonna smash us into the hull.
I think it's me. It's all falling apart here.
Hey, Isaac. Coming? Where is everybody? Up there! No!
This transformation, it's remarkable. Don't you want to be reunited with the people you lost? Our homecoming will be truly divine.
There's still a way out for us. But we don't have much time.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, what do you think of the new Dead Space that's coming out, like, in a week and a half?
Well, I played the first Dead Space many months ago. Did a gameplay of it too on my gaming channel many months ago too. And it looks good. The presentation was great. Blood, the gore, violence was exceptionally good, very good. Fucked up at times. I only played the first hour of it so far, but it looks good from the original Dead Space copy of Xbox 360. So hopefully in the remake, it'll increase the gore, increase the blood, increase the violence, the intensity of the violence, and see where it goes from there, you know?
Yeah, it only looks like they're not getting away from the violence. So if you enjoyed the first one, the atmosphere, you're probably going to enjoy the atmosphere of this one. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't have the first Dead Space. I've only played like a half hour of the first one, of the original, so I don't know if this will be on Game Pass or not, but if it is, it looks great. If not, oh well, you know. Yeah, it definitely looks creepy, though.
Definitely.
Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, next. That was Dead Space Remake. Okay. Prepare for a beautiful journey with a new season, a Letter to the Future story trailer. Developer Scavenger Studios revealed last month that it was releasing Season, a Letter to the Future on January 31st, and now, just a few weeks ahead of that, the studio has released a gorgeous new story trailer. The new trailer provides yet another beautiful glimpse into the painterly world of Season while providing new details about what our protagonist is doing, archiving the end of the Earth and the final people still living on it. She strives to capture their final moments in her journal, and with her camera, aiming to learn why they're still around and ultimately what kept them going. It sounds like quite the emotional journey. As you'll be able to see, Season is shaping up to possibly be something special. Fortunately, we don't have to wait much longer to find out because it hits PS5, PS4, and PC on January 31st. For the unimitated, Season is about the young woman featured in the trailer above leaving her secluded village to explore the world by bike for the first time in her life. She aims to collect memories of this world ahead of a massive cataclysm that will destroy it all. The trailer above reveals 3 new characters, and Scavenger Studios has provided some additional details on them. Kochi, a young boy, takes you on a bicycle tour of a valley the day before it is flooded. Maytora, an outsider artist, documents the story of the valley through her sculptures. You're the only witness to her final piece. And Ezel is the last monk of Ting Valley. Left behind by his teachers and friends, Ezel waits the change of the season in isolation with nothing to pray for until you arrive. This project would not exist without the series of miraculous people who compose our team, who lifted up and poured their absolute souls into the game. The game's creative director Kevin Sullivan and head producer Margarita Sciminino write in a joint statement. We're deeply grateful to them and so excited for players to encounter stories and memories from the warmly fading world of Season. Now it's time to rest, time to call home. So we'll look at the trailer and then discuss.
Sure thing.
I left my home to record the world before it ends. To find out what is this season and why is it ending. I cycled across the earth until I came upon a strange valley and met the last remaining inhabitants. A widow, her son, an old artist, a community organizer, a reclusive monk. I was with them in the final moments before the evacuation. Who are they? What kind of power shaped their lives? And how is it connected to what will happen to us? If the answers aren't in my journal, if these lives aren't captured here, they'll be lost in the turning of the season.
Okay, kind of looks like everything's on the table in this, like everything's on the line in this kind of game.
Definitely.
What do you think of it?
Well, I don't know what the gameplay will look like after January 31st, but it's going to be. It should obviously it's going to be one of those independently reviewed games. That's why I was like, not going to be out there and about like that of Dead Space, obviously. so very few people are going to find out about this video game sooner or later, and eventually they'll probably going to put it to like a Games with Gold. in the future?
Well, I think it's PlayStation exclusive for now, except for PC.
Oh, okay, so it's on the PS5. Okay.
Yeah, PS5 and PS4.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, it could come to Game Pass later on if it does ever come to Xbox.
Yeah, because there's games like what's it called, the Hollow Knight, and what's the other independent games, stuff like that, like White Noise and such. Like those games usually come out and about on the digital library of like a special editions and special occasions to promote the game, like that of the games, Game Pass, and the games of gold and things like that. So, yeah.
So, this game, I don't have PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4, but it looks interesting. Something I would definitely check out. It's kind of like I had to play for a Game Pass challenge, Wrath of the White Witch remastered, and that game, it's definitely got a depressing storyline at first.
Mm-hmm.
And this game looks like it's got like a depressing fate awaiting your character in the end.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like I want to see what that fate ends up being, and answer the questions that season brings up. What happened that these people are the only people left, and what about why are they still here when everyone else didn't make it?
Oh yeah.
Anything else to add, or ready to move on?
To be honest with myself, I don't know much about the game personally. Obviously, I did watch the trailer earlier this week. I will admit that, and it looked good. The presentation, showed a dark skinned woman, a brown skinned woman about. So they try to appeal towards more of the diversity of characters in this game, like as always happened for how many years now? Because before, like 25, 30 years ago, it's always the Mario and Zelda, the light-skinned characters, things like that. So people complained about it later on, decades later, which is like, by the late 2010s, the late 2000s, excuse me. And then that's when they started incorporating more and more diverse characters in their games and stuff like that. So.
But the thing is, I have to say, it seems pretty like 50-50, because like you bring up the mother and her boy, you bring up the main character, but then everyone else was white. The community organizer, the guy that stays to himself in the woods. There was probably another character I'm forgetting. So it's kind of, it's not like anyone was left out.
Of course not.
Not like the radicals today that say no one can be left out except straight white males. That
the teams have turned at first.
Yeah,
kind of weird. Because people complain about this for decades. About the diverse characters in certain games and certain movies and such. And it's obviously at one point it was dominated by a group of people that were the majority. That's all. And I mean, obviously there was always diverse characters no matter what for how many decades. It's just that started to become more and more obvious to everyone around, playing games now, because it's more appeal towards the mainstream audience. Prior to that, it was to a niche audience. So,
Yeah, but we did the right thing when we ignored those people who complained, and just patted them on the head. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
let the people who know what they're doing return to work now.
Oh yeah. And if you want to make your own game, make your own
game.
You got the money for it, That's why this is a huge, like whatever's going on in Hollywood specifically with them, they started to go downgrade because they did appeal too much towards the diversity and inclusion and equity and all. It's all well and good, but don't make it the super focus of the matter. What's the quality like? How's he acted? How's the portrayal? How's the artwork of the design of the characters? Whether it's in real life or in a written type of drawing type of fashion in animation or anime, whatever you want to call it. So it's something to look at. Yes, the diversity of such sorts of characters. Don't make it too focused. Just make sure they are decent, well portrayed, well written, well acted characters. Everything will be fine.
Yeah.
So
So the game shouldn't anger anyone except people who are just out of their minds, which unfortunately is a lot of people.
The normies, they call them.
but you know, like I said, the mystery in the game it actually got me interested. I didn't know this game was coming out, so I saw the trailer, and now I'm kind of like wondering, what is that game gonna be? You know. Ready to move on?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, just a couple more stories. The next Assassin's Creed game is smaller because past games got way too big. Ubisoft says fans were getting tired of the massive RPGs and wanted something smaller. The last few Assassin's Creed titles have been gigantic games that ran easily, take over 100 hours to fully complete with huge maps crowded with points of interest and tons of side quests to distract you from the main story. According to Ubisoft, Assassin's Creed Mirage, the upcoming spin-off, is smaller and more intimate because fans grew tired of these giant RPGs, and the devs were more than happy to go in this direction with the latest game in the franchise. While I'll be the first to say that modern Assassin's Creed games have been a lot of fun, I also admit that recent entries in the series like Odyssey and Valhalla have become far too big and bloated. More recent Assassin's Creed games, starting with Origins, have evolved the franchise from a series of smaller stealth games set in large cities into a collection of massive open-world RPGs, often filled with hundreds of quests, side quests, collectibles, and places to explore. And if you're like me, long for a smaller, more focused Assassin's Creed game, well, we aren't alone. In an interview with Games Radar, Assassin's Creed Mirage's creative director, Stephanie Bowden, explained that while Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla were all great games that let players live an epic journey, it was clear that those players were longing for something different and smaller. Among staff fans, we started hearing the desire for a character-driven story focused on the core pillars of the first ACs in a more intimate scale, explained Bowden. It resonates with us as well as developers, and this was the starting point of the project. Biden also said that while Mirage came about from a convergence of several inputs, the biggest driver behind the upcoming spin-off's smaller scale and focus on narrative came from what the community was asking for after years of huge RPGs. Further, Mirage pays homage to the OG Assassin's Creed game starring Altair. Mirage is set in a smaller part of the world, the Middle East during the 13th century, and features actual assassins and not photo assassins as seen in recent games. I think all of this is a great direction to take the franchise. I want to keep playing these games, but after Valhalla, I'm not sure I need yet another 200-hour epic RPG. This could really help mix things up and keep the franchise feeling fresh and fun. I hope this is the start of a new trend where we see a mix of bigger open-world entries like Valhalla and Origins and smaller games focused on stealth. The franchise can support this mix and would help avoid burning out fans who play every new game like me. Assassin's Creed Mirage is set to release sometime this year for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series, and PC. So, in your opinion, do you think the Assassin's Creed games got way too big?
Definitely, because I can't complete them in time. I'm still... This is going to sound crazy to most of you guys out there. Since 2014, I was getting my first ever Xbox One with the Assassin's Creed bundle. I'm still 3% into the game of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Well,
3%.
I mean, you haven't really played it since God knows when, so...
But I did play it the other day or two, yes, but I'm just saying the fact that it's so big that I only had 3% of that game, and it's like, I don't have that kind of time like when I was a kid though to play these type of games. So I'm glad that Assassin's Creed games are going to be smaller now. Because not everyone's going to finish it at a time.
Usually they tell you your total playtime in the newer games. Do you remember what Black Flag said was your amount of playtime in hours? And
well, it does say 3%, so that's very small to begin with.
Yeah, so. But I'm just saying, most games, Batman games, they'll be done, and the story will, you could finish the story and another side quest, and you'll be at 25% completion, 30% completion.
Yeah, I don't know the details of that specific matters. I will admit that.
I'm just saying, when you complete the story, that doesn't get you to 100%. You have to complete side quests. You have to complete, it's like the Grand Theft Auto games, like Grand Theft Auto 5. You can complete Franklin, Trevor, and Michael's story, but that's not, you got, if you want to get 100% completion, you got to do all the Strangers and Freaks missions, you got to do, all the missions that have nothing to do with the main story is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, racing and buy properties, things that matter. So, yeah, I know the deal. I mean, like I said, Assassin's Creed never really been my focus for how many years? If not, it's been almost 10 years I actually owned these games, Assassin's Creed Unity and Assassin's Creed Black Flag. And then, not Unity. Is it Unity? It has to be Unity.
No, I think Unity was PS4 only.
Okay, because if I remember correctly, Syndicate was came out back in 2017, 2018?
Yeah, we had Assassin's Creed Rogue before that.
Right.
Rogue came out around the same time Unity did.
Because Unity and Black Flag was a bundle on the Xbox One back in 2014.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mom got me for Christmas 2014. And I thank her for doing that for me, giving me that a push to get to play the Xbox One in time. Because if I wouldn't be able to play Xbox One until like 2017, 2018 when I wanted to take out credit at the time. I started taking out credit when I was like in 2016, first time in my life. I was like 27, maybe 28 years old. So yeah.
Yeah, I understand the games have been way too big, and I don't really go after the side quest as I do. Maybe I should start. I have to look up Syndicate. I still have Syndicate. I could re-download that, see if there's got to be side stuff that I skipped. But, Odyssey is still, I think Origins is on Game Pass now. Yeah, so I understand the games are way too big, but I enjoy the action more than having to do stealth. Like the older Assassin's Creed games, stealth was not a choice. It was something you must do if you wanted to get ahead. And then the later games, like Black Flag, like Rogue, and so on, they allowed you to play whether you wanted to be more action or more stealth. It was up to you.
Right.
So that's one thing with Assassin's Creed Mirage. I really don't like them going back to stealth because it sounds like that's going to be forced on you like the older games. But if it's a smaller adventure with more story, it doesn't sound like it'll be all bad. I just wish they would allow you to play action or stealth, let you make the choice.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to add or ready to move on?
I'm ready to move on.
All right, final story for tonight. Atlus demands spoiler warnings in streams of its decade-old Persona games. Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden launch next week with some interesting streaming restrictions. Atlus is back with some peculiarly limiting stipulations for folks looking to live stream Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden, the upcoming HD remasters of two pretty old RPGs sealed to launch on January 19th. You should be careful lest the developer-publisher comes after your content. Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden are both well over a decade old, having launched in 2006 and 2008 respectively. According to a late December announcement from Atlus, both games will get some new features in these releases for modern platforms, including high-resolution graphics, smoother controls, the option to choose your difficulty setting at the start instead of waiting until the second calendar week, a quick save mechanic for Persona 4 Golden, an album function to go over previous scenes. There are no alternate storylines, extra characters, or anything like that. If you played these Persona games, then you know what to expect. The age of these games is what makes the streaming restrictions so odd. As to Silcano reports, Atlus wants content creators to abide by a set of specific rules when broadcasting the game to viewers, rules which it has published on its Japanese website Persona channel. Aside from putting up spoiler warnings in either the stream overlay or title when encountering parts that contain spoilers, such as Persona 4 Golden's Culprit Dungeon, the company also demands you display the copyright Atlus, copyright Sega watermarks when streaming or uploading videos of both Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden. On top of that, you can't lock any piece of content behind a paywall. However, if you intend to monetize your videos, you have to go through YouTube's partnership program. Your videos can't focus solely on the music, you can't show any cheats or mods, and you aren't allowed to make content offensive towards any particular person. Oh, and if Atlus says the video has to come down, well, the video has to come down. End of discussion. Kotaku reached out to Atlas for comment. While the restrictions themselves aren't terribly surprising, both Persona 3 and Persona 4 have been out for over 10 years now. Sure, they're making the jump to modern hardware, which will give these games a shiny new coat of paint, but as Atlas has made clear, there's nothing new buried in these games regarding plot or characters or anything of the sort. Folks have likely seen all the twists and turns these narratives have to offer by now. Hell, I just opened Twitch to see if anyone's streaming Persona 3, and sure enough, someone was at the time of writing. I won't begrudge a person who wants to avoid spoilers, especially when they haven't experienced the games for themselves, but at the same time, there's something funny about treating games from over 10 years ago as if they're brand new and their twists and turns aren't already widely known. This isn't the first time Atlas has requested that folks not spoil Persona games, with the latest example being Persona 5's release in 2017. Atlas threatened content creators with copyright strikes for posting spoiler-heavy videos, only to renege, loosen these restrictions, and apologize for going too hard in the paint. So what do you think of Atlas getting restriction-heavy for not 2 new games, 2 new remasters of games?
Well, they want to try to prevent people from to consume too much of their streaming content from these streamers, because they want people to buy and pay for themselves to play it themselves. So that's a good move on their part as far as on their end, on their perspective. So in the overall sense, as a gamer, why not listen and watch whatever you want to see through your favorite streamer, in case you're not interested in paying for it from the start. You know, it doesn't hurt, just with the fact that many people watch or look at a stream of content of Persona. Doesn't mean the game is popular to begin with. It just shows a preview of the game, present the game by the streamer, and then you see the gameplay, and then you eventually want to buy it yourself. You buy it yourself and privately play your own accord. But Alex doesn't see like that 100%. They want to look at it from like a short-term game, knowing that, like, you know, the ones who are not going to pay for the game, why should they? Leave them alone. Well, let them be. But guys like me, like, I did see gameplay videos on YouTube of Persona, whether it's Persona 5, Persona 4, Persona Persona fighting video game and such. You know, those games are, you know, they maybe want to buy them themselves. If I recall correctly, I think I bought the Persona fighting video game, or as part of the Games with Gold, something like that. If I recall correctly, it's been so many years ago. I bought this or played it, and I saved it under my library. So I guess you could say is that, you know, it's a hit and miss when it comes to games like Persona, because Persona is like, it's popular, but not popular like that of Call of Duty, not like that of Halo type of fashion.
Right.
It's like the secondary popularity, because it's usually on the Switch. You see these RPG games flourishing. What's it called? Xenoblade Chronicles. You see Dragon Age Quest. Like, this is all stuff from Nintendo's time, or at the time that is of Nintendo. So it would expanded, yes. People would play it, yes, but it didn't expand too much to the point where it's like everyone in the game community want to get these games. That's like the Halo and Call of Duty type of crowd. You know, personally myself, I just started playing Call of Duty since 2016. So I was a potential player to buy their game because I saw content of it for how many years on YouTube or on Twitch and things of that matter. So it's something that Atlas gotta stop controlling, because you can't. Because if I want to make my own good gaming console and have my own gaming content, my own gaming IP and all, I know one thing certain. I know that these streamers, these YouTubers, they are like the crutch or the opening, the foot in the door to get other people to play your game too. So don't undermine these creators, don't undermine these Switch streamers, because they are the ones who are going to determine how many copies you're going to get from the long-term playability or the long-term acquisition of these games. So
yeah, but I mean, the point is, I mean, the restrictions that Atlas said, I mean, you have to put spoilers, or you have to let people know that if you're streaming the game or playing the game, like making a Let's Play, spoilers have to be somewhere in the title, letting people know that the game is going to have spoilers, and you have to put like an Atlas Sega watermark on your video. or stream. Which it's kind of like the first one. How exactly? It's like playing Metal Gear Solid 4 and saying this game will have spoilers. Anyone who gives a crap will already know about it.
Of course, yeah.
And then having to put like a Atlas and Sega watermark on the video.
Yeah, they're trying to micromanage the situation at large, in my perspective. And personally, myself, that's on them for doing so. So if they want to control too much of the situation, they're not going to get a little out of it. Because people will find out eventually what these game companies are doing to the copies of the streamers and creators of these channels. And no matter how much you try to control the situation, you can't control everything. You just can't. You gotta let the market decide to see how many people are going to buy your product. Because I know that Atlas is trying to make more people buy more of games like Catherine. Because Catherine is owned by Atlas, or made by Atlas. So, I mean, if I were to play a stream of Catherine, the people who watches it are most likely not going to buy it right away because that's like a old game from the start to begin with. But Persona 5, people are always going to buy that game. So as long as you let people do their own due diligence to let them play on their own accord with no spoiler watermarks or spoiler this and labeling that, like, people are going to know that there's going to be spoilers in the game no matter what. Spoilers in the game no matter what. That's just simple. Like you just said, just Triple J. So I don't know what Alex is trying to do exactly, entirely, but it's just screwing around too much. You know?
Yeah, and not to mention, Atlas has put its foot in its mouth before when they started putting restrictions on people who wanted to stream or play Persona 5 online, or make videos of that. So it's not like Atlas has been in the wrong. It's not like Atlas hasn't been in the wrong before. So they might end up having to apologize again. And like I said, I just think these restrictions are basically like a power play.
It's baffling. Like, how can you control like every single detail of what streamers and creators do? It's like that video game Batman Arkham Asylum. But it's been a year I haven't played that game. But when I record them and upload it to YouTube, over the last several months, I got at least like 10 copyright strikes on that video, if I remember correctly, though. Because there's more than one game out there I got copyright strikes of. And one of them was Arkham Asylum. Like the music, the sound effects. I'm like, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, how can Warner Bros. Be that do diligently and be anal with the content?
Well, that's not just Warner Brothers or any game developer. That's YouTube. Because when YouTube has new copyright, when YouTube comes out with new restrictions, they say this is retroactive for all videos that already appear on the platform. So people are saying, wait a minute, you could do something that was in the terms of service, that was legal in the terms of service, allowed in the terms of service, then when your new terms of service comes out, all of a sudden that video that you posted months ago or years ago is no longer kosher. So that's YouTube. That's and they have their own problems.
Yeah, which is why you don't see me upload for the last several months now because of these copyright claims. Like, of course I'm not going to make no money off of my uploads. It's no big deal to me. I don't want no money off of YouTube. I got my own source of incomes as well. So, but if I want to for fun upload something to YouTube and I want to share with my friends like you or any of the Xbox friends of mine, wherever through on these communities. It's a problem because of my money, and I'm Sony or I'm Atlas, I'm Microsoft and stuff like that. And I want your money. Give me money. I don't care what you have to say when you have a good time. I want my money. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So
it's all about money. That's all it is. So
yeah. So anyway, that's all we have for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this. Our next podcast will be in 2 weeks on January 28th, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. I stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night, starting around 10 p.m. Eastern. So basically, what game it happens to be depends on like what's live at the moment. You know, I'm trying to play the most popular games without having my stream buried at the bottom of other streamers. So that's why it's really hard to say what I'll be playing ahead of time. But yeah, that's what I have coming up. Anything you got coming up?
So yeah, guys. To those that are well aware, I'm currently not in school right now, so I'll put that on hiatus due to the fact of financial reasons. It's more towards grading, so obviously you have a good grade on to enter these high-paying colleges, high-paying jobs, stuff like that. So, long story short, I'm taking more time out to do more game playing, more projects. So hopefully you can see more videos coming out for the next few weeks, if not a few months at least. Personally, myself, I'll do my best to upload as often as I can. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys, for my headset and all. Just that I just updated the system and I screwed up everything. So hopefully it'll be fixed by next episode. And that'll be all for today, guys.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed this. Follow me if you did. Also, check the About section of my Twitch profile. There's a link to my BitChute. There's a link to my Bonanza store where I sell records, video games, old Game Informers. And hopefully I'll see you for my next stream this coming Tuesday night. Until then, good night, everyone.
Good night, guys. Happy New Year again.